so great. Hello, everyone. I am so honored to have S.E. Wendel back today. We are talking all about her latest release, just came out on Friday. Oh, I see people already are saying hello. Hello. And one of our biggest friends, another huge fan of S.E. Wendel, Amina, is here. She says, hello, beautiful ladies. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much, B, for organizing this live. And thank you, Miss Wendel, for sharing your thoughts. I can't wait to read your new book. Let's give her a chance because I'm terrible. I do this every time. I always need to let my people say something. And I'm just like, la, la, la. S.E. Wendel, take it away. Please. We would love to hear your voice.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to B for having me again. This is so exciting.
Oh my gosh, so insanely exciting. So tell us how things are going right now for you. It must be like a whirlwind. I can't even imagine. The book just dropped early, right, on Wednesday, the paperback. Was that Wednesday?
The paperbacks and the hardcovers went through early last Wednesday, and ebooks are available went available on last Friday.
Yes.
They're up on Kindle Unlimited. They should be hitting bookstores like Barnes and Noble and things. That's a whole separate process than Amazon. So those are in the works. But yes, I'm just so jazzed. I'm waiting on my author copy so I can start getting pre-orders and pre-order bundles finished. And it's going to be amazing. I'm going to be the bane of the post office.
I'm so excited to hear that because I definitely I did my pre-order bundle.
You definitely do. It's sitting in my stack.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited. I got the stickers, all the good stuff. I just cannot wait. So, but I'm very thankful to have the ebook. So I was able to read.
I appreciate double purchases. I appreciate it. Y'all are amazing.
Yes. Oh, anything to support you in your incredible writing. And well, I'm going to do it. I already have banners because I'm like so excited. I'm going to jump over everything I want to ask. We got a couple more people that just said, hey, hi, Christina. Okay, and I'm going to decline that. That is, of course, my mother calling. Right on time. Oh, I definitely want to try your books, but I'm more into kisses only books. Okay, there might be a little spice in this. What do you think, S.E. Wendel? Is there a little spice in Ironling?
More than a little. I'd say it's not as spicy as Stonehearts or maybe even Halfling, but I would say yes, there is plenty of open door.
It's the door's blown wide open. Just FYI.
Well, especially with, this book is just chock full of pining and like we can't be together because of our social stations and so it's just like I'm someone after all that, like that was all open door, all the pining. So I want payoff. I want open door payoff.
Open door pining. I love that. I know many, many people who agree with you on that. Worry not, I am here. You may begin. She's such a hoot. Rachel, you crack me up every time. Hey, Rachel. And S.E. Wendel, this is a fellow fantasy writer too. So,
hello.
Yes. We are having a marvelous day, especially because you're here. So let's talk a little bit. Okay, so are any other dish on how Friday went with the release?
Yeah, it went much smoother than I mean, obviously I always hope for it to go smoothly. Sometimes it doesn't always, like people catch something. I definitely, but everything's a learning process. I feel like I was much more prepared with this book. Things just fell like dominoes, nice and orderly, and that was delightful.
Awesome.
Everything went through QC without any problems, which was delightful. Friday was, I'm just so blown away. We hit almost 500 pre-orders with the ebook, which is just crazy.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just absolutely insane. And those all rolled in. Everything's great. Everything's looking peachy. It's number one in one of its smaller categories, medieval romance. It's been hanging strong since Friday, and it's just wild. The reception that Halfling got was already so lovely, and I'm just honestly very relieved that Ironling is getting such good reception as well, because sequels are scary to write. It was really delightful hearing how much everyone loved Halfling and they were so looking forward to Ironling. But honestly, it kind of it made me scared to write it because like sequels sometimes they don't live up to the first one.
Right.
So I'm so happy that so many people are enjoying the second book.
Oh my gosh, so incredible. I loved your author's note where you talk about purposely trying to make I'll continue to show. Let me I put these up here because I can't help myself. The art is so beautiful. We've got Ironling and we've got Halfling, the predecessor, if you will, to Ironling. But you mentioned in your author's note, oops, wrong one. I know I was gonna
Oops, spoilers.
I'm not gonna talk about that yet. I'm not gonna talk about it. We'll touch on it
Don't
if you
pretend
feel
you look away. You didn't see it.
well, it's out. I mean, it's available. I didn't like
Yes.
find something secret. I don't want anybody to
No,
think
no,
I'm
no.
like telling tales. But so you mentioned where was I going with that? Oh, um, just the concern over how Halfling, as you had mentioned, it's got such an incredible reception. You wanted Ireland to do well. You wanted it to live up to the hype, but you also purposely made it a different world. Tell us a little bit about the setting and how
Mhm.
you decided to, actively make it different than Halfling.
Yeah, I didn't want to just write another halfling. Uh, obviously halfling had some secret there. The formula worked. And I will never stand here and judge authors for writing, trotting out a formula. I will never fault readers for liking it because obviously
Yeah.
it's good stuff. There's secret
Yeah.
sauce. I am
Mhm.
someone who, when I go to a restaurant, I have the one thing I always order, from that restaurant. I don't try new
Yes.
things. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to sit here and judge. Um,
Mhm.
but I just knew for Halfling that I didn't want to, I didn't want Auric and Hakon to be the same. I
Yeah.
didn't want Sorsha and Ashlyn to be the same. I wanted their love
Yeah.
story to be different. So, putting it in a castle was very important, right? Because we don't have one of the reasons I think that forced proximity is so popular is that it's just built in tension. And
Yes.
as an author, it's just very easy to play with that. Like, it's easy to have your characters interact because they're stuck together, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So challenging myself, like, what happens when they're in a castle full of people?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of little side characters. There's maids and cooks and gardeners and housekeepers and knights and everyone else that
Yeah.
populate the castle plus the city.
Right.
So how would this happen?
Mhm.
And it just
Mhm.
felt right for Ashlyn's story. Ashlyn, our heroine, she is the daughter of the lord. She's now his heir. um her whole life has really revolved around this castle, this place, and it didn't feel right to write her story anywhere else because she is so tied, especially to this castle, but the city and the land. Like, she is it. She is
Yeah.
their hope and future. So,
Yeah.
um, it any other story didn't feel right for her anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was interesting not getting the forced proximity uh
Mhm.
crutch,
Mhm.
if you will. So it
Right.
was fun.
Yeah. Well, and I want to talk about castles a little bit. You mentioned
Mhm.
the castle. I found, based on what you had
Ooh.
mentioned, a few
Mhm.
images of castles that were in your mind that you visited in the past, perhaps that reminded you or that you were thinking of while you were writing. Tell us a little bit about these castles. I've got several slides, but pretty much everything you mentioned. This is Stirling Castle in Scotland, as you can see.
Love Sterling. So I was lucky enough to travel quite a bit, both as a teenager and college student. I went to Germany for several weeks when I was in high school, and then went to England. Yes, there's Heidelberg.
Yeah.
Fun story. Heidelberg is it's a very quaint, like, tourist trap sort of on the river, very German town. Like, has the wattle and daub houses, looks like a fairy tale, these adorable storybook streets, and then the castle
Wow.
sitting on top of the town itself. Fun story, my great grandparents met in Heidelberg. I know. So, crazy story. We went there during our trip, and I was like, "Oh, I've heard of Heidelberg. This is where Mutti and Vati met."
Oh,
Um,
I love it.
yes,
I love it.
he was a pilot in World War One for the Germans.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Uh,
Wow. What a
um,
story.
yes.
Yeah.
So, which, you're not gonna be meeting in Heidelberg in World War I if you're not German. So,
Well, that makes sense. There
so
weren't a lot of tourism at that time with other
yes.
people traveling.
No.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think just being lucky enough to travel to Europe and see these amazing sites, like, I've always loved fantasy, and like the castle is just such a special place. They're these little microcosms of a community. They're little cities
Mhm.
unto themselves. I mean, the amount of people it takes to run a castle, and like they have their own, you know, um, terminology. So the people who run the castle and keep it moving. It's just, yes, that's my favorite castle of all time. It's on my bucket list to go see Mont Saint Michel in France. Like, this is
Yes.
actually, that's the castle that the kingdom in the movie Tangled is based off of.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh,
It's so
my
gorgeous
two
because the
daughters have never
tide
seen it.
actually goes out, and this is all like grasslands. Like, you can walk, not just on that little bridge thing to
Are
Mont
you
Saint Michel.
kidding?
It's just a wild place. I love it. And castles are just so, they're just such fun places for fantasy to take place.
Mhm.
There's all these
100%.
little nooks and crannies, and I just feel like medieval castles aren't necessarily as big as we sort of think they are. It kind of depends. A lot of them, unfortunately, have not survived.
Mm.
So our idea of like a big honking large castle is not necessarily what truly happened, but it's fantasy, so we get to do whatever we want. But yes, I really had
Exactly,
like
thank
the
goodness.
romantic, not necessarily what really happened in the Middle Ages, but like what the 1800s thought happened into the Middle Ages. So very romantic, very,
Yes.
you know, blonde limestone, and especially in France, you've got those gray blue slate roofs, and it's just very like
Mm.
hardcore romance castle. I love
I love
castles.
it.
They
I
actually
love
probably
it.
would have been pretty crappy places to live, but you know, they were apparently very cold,
Oh.
and dank. So,
Oh.
I mean, if you've ever been in a
Drafty.
cave, kind of like
Oh.
that.
Oh my.
So,
Interesting. Well,
not a lot of fresh air.
I feel like, hey, I'm okay, so I wanna say this right now. I have a strong suspicion that before we're done, I'm going to mispronounce someone's name, and I want to
Mhm.
apologize. I checked the glossary multiple times, and I was proud because I'm like, "Ashlyn, I got that one." But I wanna apologize in advance because I just know it's gonna happen. So let's talk
Yeah,
about the names actually. Would you
yeah,
say that are they Celtic in origin, many of the
yes,
names, the spellings?
yeah.
Okay.
They're in
Okay.
particular, they're Gaelic.
Okay, Gaelic.
So
That's what I was
yes,
thinking. Yes.
and in particular, they are Irish Gaelic. So, for example,
Mm.
our surly head blacksmith Fergus,
Yes.
you could see Fergus, the spelling.
Mhm.
We're more used to the Scottish Gaelic spelling. The spelling
Oh.
in Ironling is Irish Gaelic. Um,
Oh my heavens.
the sort of plan is right that the books so far have really taken place in the central kingdom of Iria. Um, and there's a more smaller northern kingdom called Caledon, and that is going to be more Scottish Gaelic culturally, because at once they
Mm.
were all one kingdom, but then Caledon broke off at one
I
point. Um,
I even grabbed the map from your, website. May we glance at that?
of
Is that okay?
course, yeah.
Okay. This is where I can't do this without I always have to narrate this part, and I apologize. Someday, the goal is to not need to do that. Okay, now where there we are. Boom. This should work.
The map.
Woo! See, I don't think I can make it bigger, unfortunately. Maybe I could. Okay,
Ta-da! Oh
that's
yeah, that
better.
works.
I don't know if that's big enough, but yeah,
I
I'm
can
sorry. So
read it,
you
and
were
I don't
mentioning
have
was
my
there anything
glasses
while we
on.
have this map open that you wanted to mention? We were talking about area. No, you say it.
Iria.
Iria. I knew it. Iria. Okay. And Caledon.
Mhm.
This is so fascinating to me. I love this. Now, I don't think this was in the ARC, right? The map's not in the ARC, is it? I didn't
No,
see
I
it.
couldn't figure out
Okay.
how to make
Just
it
I remember
in the
thinking, I'm like,
ebook.
"I bet there's a map." Like, when you mentioned in your author's note you were talking about the map, I'm like, "Oh, I know where I can find it. I'm gonna go to, Kindle and get it." So,
Yeah,
what
it's
a
in the
gorgeous
it should be
map.
in the Kindles, in the ebooks now, and it's
Oh, yeah.
definitely in the hard copies, but yeah, I just like the ARCs, I was also on vacation from the 23rd to the 26th, communing with sea otters, so I just,
Ooh.
like it was just one thing that sort of I forgot, and then
Oh,
I
no,
couldn't
please.
figure it out in the motel, so
Right, right, right.
it didn't
Oh, I
happen.
know. This kind of thing. I love sometimes when I get ARCs, it'll say, "Insert map here." Literally will I'm like, "Well, I can't wait to see that later."
Well,
But
and
this
too,
is
right,
just
like, this is all, Kindle is very, like, portrait, so it's just
Mhm.
like this landscape piece
Yeah.
does not fit nicely,
Oh,
unfortunately,
sure.
so
Absolutely, absolutely.
it's a headache, but here we are.
And you had mentioned that you're planning on filling out this world further as we move forward.
Yes, 100%, like, as you can see, the kingdom more to the southeast, Puros,
Yes.
um, those conquered confederations are not ethnically or culturally Puros, but they have been conquered by it. And I'll be filling those in as I sort of travel into the world. Right now, it was kind of hard. Like I love a map, but I didn't write Halfling with a map in mind. But I
Right, right.
wanted one going forward, so I made this kind of before starting writing Ironling because geography is very important in this book, sort of thing. When you are a
Yes.
landed lord, and
Yes.
your home base is where things were started to get a little important.
Absolutely.
And I
And
would like
it
to address this now. I know that a strait, I've been called out. I know that a strait is the water and the isthmus is the land. It's a joke.
everyone's a critic, don't you love it?
I know it's an isthmus, but does the isthmus sound as good as the strait? No. Isthmus is a dumb word. I don't like it. Um,
And it's your book.
it's my book.
So
I
you
can do
get to
whatever I
do
want. I did. I named an island the fish. So go
I
look at
love
the
it.
fish.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So speaking of this map and talking about having created the map for Ironling as opposed to Halfling, again, and I've mentioned this before when talking to you via email or whatever. I am primarily my background has been historical romance, contemporary romance. I'm not generally a huge fantasy reader. I always though, as I've mentioned, make time for S.E. Wendel's fantasies. But this is where yeah, because you're just so good. So from what little I know, Halfling felt like low fantasy, and this feels more like mid fantasy. Ironling, I mean, is that correct, or am I totally off base? I would love to know, especially with a map. I feel like it's more entering mid fantasy, if that's a term.
To me, I mean, and everyone's definitions are, to me, they're valid. Because there isn't a strict.
Like definition of each.
I consider it high fantasy because it's
Oh,
their own world,
yes.
own religion, own languages, all this and that.
Okay.
Is it as high fantasy as something like Lord of the Rings? No, there's not as much detail.
Okay.
Um, and they aren't culturally, I don't know, low fantasy. Hmm, I don't know, that term can get a bit, like, waffly as opposed to high fantasy.
Okay.
Um, it's definitely not urban fantasy. Heart Song, the Gargoyle books,
Sure.
are
Mm.
urban fantasy, paranormal
Hmm.
romance.
Yeah.
I would consider this high fantasy,
Okay.
with, 'cause high fantasy to me just means very much, like, historical setting, like, to us would seem historical.
Sure.
Um, so
Varying kingdoms and rulers
Mhm,
and okay, well then
mhm.
I'm really excited because I kept track of this much better than I have in previous high fantasies that I've experienced, which is why I
Oh,
was like,
thank
well, this must be mid fantasy then. Well, no, it's just that you're a great writer. That's what it is. So now I can tackle
well,
this high fantasy.
and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people get intimidated by high fantasy because
Oh
they
yeah.
do think like, "Oh my gosh, it's gotta be like Tolkien. It's gotta be like George R. R. Martin or Patrick
Mm,
Rothfuss."
mm,
Um, and these maps and thousands of years of backstory that I'm gonna have to learn. And that's
yeah.
not necessarily true. I mean, when it is like strictly a fantasy novel,
Yeah.
yeah, you're probably gonna want more world building in that regard. But especially for things in a subgenre like romance or something else, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily as important. And I do think with world building, you have to consider, is it adding to the story?
Mm,
Because, for example, Tolkien writing the books, he wasn't necessarily interested. I mean, he was interested in the plot, but he was a linguist. He was a
right.
huge nerd, and he wrote The Lord of the Rings and other books
Yeah.
to give his language that he made, Elvish, to give it something to inhabit
Yes.
because he made the language first.
Right.
And so if that's not your level of commitment to this world, that's okay. You can still write the book. I think a lot of people, both authors and readers, appreciate not being like battered over the head with, obviously some people love it. Like
Right.
I just
Yeah.
my housemate and I just started rewatching, or not rewatching, started second season of The Rings of Power. And I definitely had to go on the Lord of the Rings wiki and be like, and I love Lord of the Rings and I've read the books.
Yeah.
But I still had to get on the fan base and be like,
Right.
all right, nerds, like, what is this? I don't know what's going on anymore.
I'm so glad we have these resources today, you know? We can just jump
And
on and somebody knows everything.
Game of Thrones too. Like, I'm just like, who is this?
Are they related? What happened?
I mean, they
Yeah.
probably are. They're probably related. It's too much. Related.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so
love
I
it.
think like there's a right way to do it,
Sure.
and neither of them is wrong.
Exactly. That's how I feel about this genre, subgenre in general. Whatever I mean, I love the everybody's got their thing that they love and things that they
Exactly.
don't love. So it's wonderful. Um, Speaking of linguists and languages and things, so Oric and Hakon have conversations during the
Mm-hmm.
story in Orcish.
Yes.
Now, did you come up with the Orcish, or is there some sort of a wiki for Orcish that you would reference?
No, I definitely chose to just like have a few phrases and words in there, and they're completely made up. I did try and make it sort of sound, but I did not get into it like
Okay,
old and high Valyrian in Game of Thrones
right.
or Kenya in Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
no,
I was
it's
so
not.
curious. I was like, I wonder if where she's gotten this and like, are we gonna see a whole language and
No, oh god, no, no, no. I am not a linguist. I don't know. Because that's when you are going to commit to doing a whole language is hard. Usually you have to make it up and then you have to develop it. It's not just where the language starts. You have to think about where the language was and where it's going to go. And that's just not how my brain works. Like, I think it's interesting, but I'm not a linguist. So,
Mm,
um,
mm,
yeah, I liked to populate some phrases in there, made the words sound like based off the names I had chosen for the
yeah,
orcs and their region,
yeah.
words that would sort of feel right. Like when you look at like when you hear Spanish or look at Spanish place names, like it sort of
Yeah.
makes sense, sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get the scent, you get the feel of it, you know where it's from.
Mhm.
So speaking of language, we see our hero, Hakon, who's half Orcish.
Yes.
He's speaking Orcish some of the time with his brethren, if you will, his kin. And then he also knows hand speak, I think is that
Mhm.
how you referred to it? Or am I
Yes, hand
okay.
talk, yeah.
Which hand talk, thank you. Which would be like our modern day sign language. So he's
Yes.
learned that. And he also now I'm gonna say it wrong again. Is it Irian? What is the language that they
Tyrion?
Irian?
Irian.
Irian. There we are. So that's the language that he is
Mhm.
attempting to master in order to really connect with Ashlyn and just to be a member of this new culture. How did you find and of course, another thing that's hindering him maybe from mastering all of this as quickly is the fact that he is partially deaf in
Mhm.
one is it 1 ear? It's 1 ear, right?
Yeah, he's partially deaf in his right ear.
So tell me a little bit about the decision that went into making that
Mhm.
part of his character. How does that impact the way that he interacts with others and feels about himself?
Yeah, I think it was something that kinda came up last minute as I started writing the first chapters, as well as I had been watching, a program where they had, like, um it's called what is it called? It's experimental archaeology. So, that means, like, recreating uh archaeologists making flint tools and then trying to use them. It's archaeology where we're trying to recreate stuff from the past, especially stuff we don't quite know how they did it, and we're trying to figure out how they did. um so like cooking ancient foods, that would be experimental archaeology sort of thing.
Ooh.
I was watching one about blacksmithing, and the archaeologist mentioned how blacksmiths often went deaf, which
Mm.
is not surprising. Um, it's very loud. Same
Right.
thing with, in churches with bell ringing. Bell ringers often went deaf.
Oh.
In, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, he's gone deaf from bell ringing. But so that is sort of like fit in, and I was like,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it just felt I had begun to write Hakon, and um I didn't necessarily want his story to be all about grief. I feel like in many ways Oryx was about grief, um, and being ostracized for being a halfling. I
Yeah.
wanted Hakon to be a bit more like Hakon wasn't really ostracized being a halfling too much. People were a bit apathetic about it, but he feels like he felt separate because of being a halfling, as well as his partial deafness, which is
Mm,
in the
mm.
story, it's congenital. It's not
Right,
because of being a blacksmith. His grandmother
right.
has it too. And so I thought that was sort of important to be like, well, actually the deafness is sort of a sense of belonging with with his orcish grandparents who raise him. Right, that he's like his grandmother. Um, and I definitely thought about it because I have no experience with deafness. I have family members who are a bit hard of hearing, but it's more age related sort of thing. It's not congenital. And
Sure.
I don't know ASL. I'm very, very jealous of people who do. So, it just sort of felt right once I had the thought. And I was like, oh, this feels right for him because he sort of needed a thing.
Mm,
This felt right. And that doesn't like his deafness is not, it doesn't define him. It
right,
doesn't hinder him really in any way other than he just has to find workarounds.
right.
And I thought it was an interesting sort of challenge, right? It does create um like there's a whole sort of problem right with him. He mouth reads to sort
Yes,
of help,
yes.
and that becomes a problem when people
Yeah,
think maybe he's flirting with them when he's
right,
not. Um that might become a bit of an issue for some people.
right.
So it was sort of interesting to think through these problems of not only you know uh miscommunication between cultures and languages, but then also like how does he, which I
Yeah.
think just shows his resilience, right? He's a very resilient character. He's doing his best and he's very clever, thinking around
Yes.
these problems.
Mhm. I think
And
we
I
all
did look it
appreciate
up.
a
They did
fish
use
out.
beeswax as earplugs. So
Oh, yeah. Well, we all appreciate a fish out of water tale, I think, and that
yes,
and seeing him
100%.
like that. Even more so someone who may feel different because of
Mhm.
some differences, neurodivergence specifically. Speaking of our heroine, Ashlyn, I definitely want to hear whatever you have to share about her. And I shared this with you via email, but for me as having someone, both of my sons are on the autism spectrum, and it
Mhm.
was interesting. I just wanted to, because I've read many, many, many nonfiction books related to autism and
Mhm.
anything remotely related to that. I just wanted to recommend Ashlyn books. I just wanted to be like, here, take this. I've got this. This would be great for you. But I loved how you were able to incorporate her the way that she is. And so I'm
Mhm.
gonna let you talk more about that right now. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts
I'm
are.
happy to hear someone who, has experienced it in their own family, that it was a authentic experience. That was what I was
Oh,
going for.
yes.
I chose not to go down like a very specific, like it is this type disorder
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
I wanted her to be applicable to people without being like, this is this one experience, and if I didn't get it right, I was gonna get called on it, sort of thing. Especially someone who I would consider myself somewhat not I'm not neurotypical, but I'm certainly not like I'm not ADHD. I'm not any,
Sure.
none of that. No, I'm not
Mhm.
neurospicy. So
I love
so
that
I didn't I
term. I
didn't want
love that
it
term.
to just, yeah. And it needed to not just be like, oh, this is a flavor for her. It's just that like what's makes her quirky. It needed to be like these are these are things that would affect someone very much. And you read about historical figures, and with the advantage of retrospect, they're like, oh, that person was probably on the spectrum.
Mm,
And
mm.
thinking back historically, like a lot of these people probably wouldn't have lived very long because their behaviors would not have been accepted in the community or understood. So what does it mean to have someone not only accepted in the community, but like her parents really do? They're like, you are different, and that's amazing, and we will just try to, like parents like you who are just like, it's not that your child has a disability, they just interact with the world a different way, and
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine.
absolutely.
So I think it was important. I definitely, it took me a while to get into her character because I did want to do right by it.
Mhm.
um I did sort of base it on a certain type of, like, without putting her in a certain category or peg. I do
Sure.
have a family member who has what is formerly known as Asperger's,
Right.
which is itself a spectrum. um so sort of based it on, she's very particular, likes when it comes to textures and tastes.
Yeah.
And part of it is just observing not only that family member, but people that I've met in my life with it, as well as just on the internet. I think that's one of the good things about the internet is you can learn about different experiences, and
Yeah.
just paying attention. These different things, liking certain things, and not obviously thinking in certain ways and thinking differently, and how would that present challenges for someone in a castle, which is a very contained environment. um,
Right.
and what does it mean for someone who doesn't have a lot of social graces? It would be something that if she's going to succeed, she's going to have to be determined, and so that
Mhm.
her determination to be good at it and to be good for her people, I think, became very central to her character. Because otherwise, I don't know why anyone would do it, especially with those challenges. Um,
Absolutely.
so that was sort of like, that really did unlock her character for me, like her determination and dedication to the job.
Mhm,
Like, it's not just
mhm.
about being a pretty lady walking around spending money. Like, she's the top administrator essentially, of
Yeah.
her domain. So I think it honestly kind of helps her in a lot of ways. It's actually kind of good that she thinks this way. She's not really into court intrigue or political intrigue or machinations or anything like that. She's just like, I want to build a bridge. It's great. So, I wanted to show someone like that, like not only like succeeding and leading, because
Yes.
they certainly can. You know, they bring a lot
Oh,
of
absolutely.
different things to the table. So that was really, really awesome to write. And I've really enjoyed hearing from people that it did feel like an authentic experience. And that's really, really, I'm so relieved and glad. Like I'm glad that,
Oh my
because
gosh.
she's so precious and I love her, and I'm glad I could do right by it.
100%, truly, and I found it to be we talk about fated mates. I mean, well, we haven't talked
Mhm.
about that here. I don't think that that phrase was ever thrown around. But just the thought of how Hakon is absolute perfection for Ashlyn,
Yes.
thinking about how when he purrs, that that is something sensory-wise that calms her down. And
Mhm.
I thought at such a deep like a bone deep level, these 2 are absolute perfection for one another, and they
Yeah.
get one another in a different way. Brenna, who is the I'm gonna try, Chatelaine?
Chatelaine? Yep.
Chatelaine, ugh.
It's French. It's
Oh, well,
French.
then I had no there was
French.
no way I was gonna get I'm the worst at
That's
French, oh my
another one
gosh.
of those fun castle words.
Ah!
Castle specific.
I love it, I love it.
Chatelaine.
So Brenna, I definitely wanna talk more about this character.
Mhm.
She is the as you had just said, Chatelaine.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay, yes, perfect then. But she's essentially
You
the
got it.
manager, if you will, of the castle. Is that
Mhm. He
semi-accurate?
runs it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
The
I
head administrator, I guess, under Ashlyn. Mhm.
yeah, I found her to be not my favorite character, but a very important character, and I'm
Yes.
very glad that you included her because w many of us who have neurospicy tendencies or know work with people very closely that have that, you will have Brennas in your life who think
Mhm.
that perhaps they're doing the best for you and are speaking to you or interacting with you in a way that's going to help you, but maybe
Yeah.
it doesn't because they don't really get you,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And that
Yeah.
was my impression of Brenna, although I did question her loyalties at times, but I was like, I wish that you would not say certain things to Ashlyn. I just feel like you just don't
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think that was important to me, to not just make her like a sort of like wicked stepmother almost figure. She was like, and Brenna's character is very much steeped in grief. You know, the whole family, Ashlyn's family, um, absolutely shattered when her mother passed away when they were children, which is not a spoiler. We learn about it in the prologue. Um, but yes,
Yeah,
Ashlyn's mother is deceased. And Brenna was her, like, came with her in the marriage. They were very, very close. And
yeah,
so Brenna has done her best, but she fundamentally does not understand
yeah,
where Ashlyn comes from.
right,
I think she's done her best, but honestly, like, what happens when your best isn't not it's not only not good enough, it's not what was needed. Like, not only
sure.
with Ashlyn, right? Brenna's attitude towards Ashlyn's brother Jared.
Mm,
Brenna's behavior towards him definitely led him down a path, right? Spoiling
mhm,
him, letting
yeah,
him get away with everything.
right, right, right,
So, you know,
yeah,
she's not evil at
right,
all. She's not malicious. She's just trying to do kind of her best,
yeah,
but coming at it from a very narrow-minded,
yes,
small-minded sort of,
mhm,
you know, like, she thinks things should be a certain way. And to be
yeah,
fair, Ashlyn should thinks things should be a certain way too. Um, and I think it's important that both of them sort of realize, like, oh, maybe we're not good together anymore, you know? And it
yeah,
is very much based off of, right, there's a very famously, um, Queen Victoria was very, very close to her German governess growing up. She was
mm,
not close to her mother. And after marrying Prince Albert, there was this sort of push and pull between the governess, even though Victoria was in her 20s. She stuck around, and she was basically Victoria's mother. Um, and Prince Albert definitely felt, where do I belong in this family? And so eventually the governess
mm,
was, you know, like, thank you for your service, but
yeah,
it's time. Like, we don't need to be here anymore. She's not
Right.
a child. She's a grown married woman sort of thing. And she's
Mhm,
clean.
mhm.
So it was very much based on that, right? Like, it's a point in your life and what happens. And Branna very much is a manifestation of much of Ashlyn's past that she just
Yes,
has to kind of let go.
absolutely. And I just wanna applaud you on that too, because,
Oh, thank
so much of the fantasy are things that we're not going to encounter, obviously, thankfully, in many
you. It was
cases.
also like, dang it.
Right. I know, right? Exactly.
I
Some
love
of
a
the things,
Hakon.
yay, some of the things, oh, yeah. But to see strength, which I wanna
Mhm.
definitely touch more on in just a moment too, because I love the way that you imbue your characters with strength and the way that it manifests it so differently in different characters. Um, but the strength that comes from having boundaries, and
Mhm.
as you
Yeah,
said, like, knowing when it's time to cut off with certain people who are not only, not helpful, but are hindering you from becoming your best self.
absolutely.
That's something that we can all learn from today. I mean, we can all learn, even if we're not learning, how to talk to orcs or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's important to see that, like, I can have that sort of strength that Ashlyn has just by thinking of boundaries and what's going to help me. What do I need? Who
Oh,
do I need in
yeah.
my inner circle? I just
Mhm.
love that. I love that. And I want to talk about strength. And I talk and the way that your characters are strong in such different ways. I mean, truly, and I mean, when you talk about the female body, for example, and I'm mostly talking about character when I say strength. We can talk physical for a moment as well, but you met at one point, Hakon is just so reverential toward her, just admiring her. And I love the way that one of the things that he loves about her is her strength.
Mhm.
The comment about her strong body. I just adore that. I wish I saw that more frequently in romance, you know? So
Yeah.
is there I know I'm sort of putting you on the spot because I don't think I said this in the email, and I try to always be ahead of time, but talking about strength, what does that
Mhm.
mean to you for your characters? Like, I mean, I just feel like each of them has their own beautiful, unique way that they are strong for one
Oh,
another. So
cool.
if you could touch on that at
Yeah.
all.
Well, I love writing a strong lady.
Yes.
Obviously, like Lena
Love
from
that.
the duet. Lena is a badass knight.
Yes, I love Lena
Just
so
love her
much,
so much. She's here
so
to
much.
kick ass and take names, and she's all out of names, sort of thing. I love her.
I love
Right.
it.
She's a very classic, like strong female character, sort of thing.
Yes.
I definitely think about I get annoyed in, like, popular media with like, the strong female lead TM sort of thing. It
Mm,
often means sort of mysterious or out for revenge and, like, is a badass warrior,
mm.
which is fun. I mean, we certainly didn't get that 30 years ago very much, and
Sure.
nearly as much as we get
Right.
now. But I do
Yeah.
think, like, we're coming to a point where we need to make it more nuanced, and I enjoy the nuance of it. I'm also someone who I am not a small, dainty pixie woman myself. I am 5'7". I am stocky German heritage, um, with a what my grandmother diplomatically called a swimmer's body. Um,
I
okay,
love
grandma.
it so much. I love it so much.
Like I did
Oh.
swim, but like, okay, broad shoulders, that sort of thing. Like a
Mhm.
strong body. Like I am a pretty strong. Um, and I think that's just it's one
But
way to be a woman. I think women in particular are just so resilient.
yes.
They've had to be. And so I find it very interesting and compelling in my books to explore different types of female strength because there are
Yes.
so many.
And how strength is
Um,
beautiful.
mhm,
Just love that.
absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to be strong. It's resilience. Um, I
Mhm.
think that definitely played into writing. Like, honestly, the last couple months in my own personal life have been like I got absolutely clotheslined.
Ooh.
May was going so great, and then June happened, and July was bad, and it was just like a
Ugh.
lot of crap happened this year,
Oh, man.
that I think it was so amazing to get to escape back into Ironling, and it definitely did sort of influence, like, what does resiliency look like?
Mm,
And,
that's
no
powerful.
one's going to solve your problems for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and if that's what you're waiting for, like, you've given up your own agency, and it's also not gonna happen. So I think it's just been really, really fun,
Yeah.
exploring these different types of women.
Mhm, mhm. I love it. Another kind of strength that I wanna touch on, and of course, then you knew I was gonna have to talk about Oric and Sorcha a little
Mhm.
bit.
Our
One of my
baby.
favorite I just one of my favorite conversations happens between Oric and Hakon, and talking about what does it mean to be strong for your woman? And does that
Mhm,
mean carrying them away and sort of taking over? Or does that mean trying to assimilate into their culture? And how is that even going? But I found myself just so enraptured with seeing Oric and Sorcha
mhm.
together. The I could go on and on, but I won't. I'll let you talk about how and not why. I guess why not? About the decisions to put Oric and Sorcha so front and center in this story. I mean, not front and center, but they're in it a lot, which I was
Right.
so excited about. I didn't know. It was a wonderful surprise to see them in the book so much, and everybody's gonna be so happy to see that.
I certainly love putting them on the page. I think it sort of made sense to me. They're, like, geographically not far away from each other, they're about an hour,
Yeah.
which even Halfling references, right? Like, when they travel to where Ashlyn is in the first
Yes.
book. So it didn't make sense to me to be like, well, they're within an hour of each other. So, like, why wouldn't they?
Mhm,
They're also,
mhm.
obviously their fathers are very close friends. Their families have been very close for a long time. And on top of Ashlyn's own brother is the one who sort of set into motion the events of Halfling, and like that would be, I think, something that she would be very, very worried about in impacting their friendship, which she is.
Yeah.
But I think it was important for Sorsha to, it's not your fault. On top of like Sorsha's also sort of the reason that Ashlyn is where she is now too. So on
Oh,
some
yeah.
level, Sorsha's like, I mean, I put you here, so I'm gonna try and help.
Right. Excellent point.
Yeah, and it was good because I think Ashlyn needed a friend, and I just sort of love like the village of, right. It's mentioned in Halfling towards the end, and then it's a very big part of Ironling, this growing community of non-human people coming back into the area after fleeing 30 years before. So yeah, it felt right. I didn't want to like overwhelm the story with Oric and Sorsha. That's one of the reasons why they don't come in immediately. Um,
Mm,
this is not a second book about them,
right.
but they are incredibly important. They're friends with both of them, so it didn't make sense to not have them, you
Yes,
know?
right. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I didn't want to be Bridgerton and stop bringing in previous siblings. Like, why are all the siblings at the next wedding? Like, this makes no sense. Like, I didn't want to pull a Bridgerton, so no, they
I
gotta
love
be there. Sorry. My legs are getting all tangled up. There we go.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yes.
Um, you know what? I just saw a question pop up. Do the halflings have offspring? That is a great question. I was curious about that because for some reason in the book I was thinking, look at her face. I love it. Maybe we just don't know.
I
We
think you're
just,
gonna
I
have to
guess.
read the book and find out.
Oh, okay. So I'll just not say any boop. Make sure I don't say anything else. Smart, smart. But that's a great question, Blue Knight.
I will say, yes, they are biologically capable of it, it's just harder.
Okay, okay. Good to know. Because I think that was my question too after I read Halfling
Mhm.
with Sorcha and Oric. Would they have children? Yeah. So, okay, good to know. I was very curious. I
Yeah,
actually
obviously humans, right, just by virtue of Oric and Hakon being halflings, um, the species can intermix. Uh, but like they're not hybrids, you know?
Mm,
Um,
mm.
though in my head, like they do have some of the hybrid qualities in that, like it is a bit harder for them to
Sure,
conceive.
sure.
But
Okay.
yes, they are biologically capable of it.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna stick to and say.
And that's all we're gonna say about that. I'm gonna go through a couple of my banners. I can't believe we've been talking for 50 minutes. I haven't even gotten to anything I planned. No, that is not, don't be afraid, anyone.
Don't be
That does
afraid.
not mean we're gonna be here for hours and hours more
Famous
because
last words.
I know. I know, right? Oh my gosh, we'll do the intermission thing we talked about last time and then we never did. But okay, so I've seen this question from people who my online friends have asked me this, and so I popped this in. When do you believe the Ironling audiobook will be available? Do we know yet?
I'm hoping by the end of the year, based on how quickly Podium turned around the Halfling audiobook on top of Ironling is slightly shorter. It's with Podium right now, and the narrators will be the same, so we don't have to go through the casting process again.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're going to be the narrators for the foreseeable future of the whole series. So Sweetling as well. I'm hoping by the end of the year, but the manuscript is with Podium, as far as I know. Obviously, this was a holiday weekend, so
Sure.
hopefully I'll hear something later
Yeah,
this week. But yeah, I think they're good to get going here soon. So
excellent.
hopefully by the end of the year.
Okay, great, great. Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about yet is one of the things I love most about you and your world, which is the art. We gotta
Oh my
talk
goodness.
art.
Yes.
Now, one of your one of the pictures is not safe for work. I was trying to figure out I was like, "What is she holding?" For the longest time, and then I just figured out before we went live, I'm gonna skip that picture.
Uh-huh. You can
It's
find
on a
the full one on Twitter, but yeah, it's not, you can't post anywhere but Twitter.
I feel like I also saw quite a bit I got an eyeful, as they say, on Instagram, or maybe it was your website. I will
Oh,
have
on the
everything
website? Yeah,
linked.
on the website, it's the full version on my
Okay,
website. Yeah. Go to the art section on my website at your own peril.
all
But
the
not
art is
everywhere.
so great, but yeah, I laughed so hard. I was like, "Oh!" Don't know how,
Yeah.
and now I can't see anything but that, but
Mhm.
just like, what? Anyway, okay, let me go with as I always do when it's time to screen share. I'm always thinking. All right, stop. Oh, it's saying stop screen, so it thinks I haven't been sharing. Okay. Oh, now we're not doing. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm so sorry. Someday it's going to be seamless.
It's never quite as straightforward as you hope it will be.
Isn't that the truth?
Here's the map.
There we are. Okay. So, ba, 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 ba. We've talked. Do you want to talk about the cover? We haven't discussed the cover.
Oh, I love the cover.
I do too.
Oh, it's so dreamy.
Oh my gosh. When
I
I saw that
adore getting
cover,
to work with Beth. It was definitely you know, I sent her a classic clinch cover for pose ideas, and of course, like hairstyle, hair ideas, and like I just kind of let her run wild. I was just like romantic castle, rose garden, any
yes.
sort of medieval type of dress you'd like, which is what have told all the artists. Um, like, what is
Mhm.
your vision of like a medieval fantasy dress? And like, sure, like go with it. I think it's fun to allow and have artists put their own spin on it. So I haven't been very strict or demanding about like her clothes because I think it's fun to see what their ideas are.
Yeah, and I feel like and this is me putting words in your mouth, so feel free to correct me, but I feel like you've been around doing this for a number of years so that you have a sense of which artists you have the same kind of, like, wavelength on in terms of what you're
Yeah.
looking for. So,
Hmm.
because I've noticed when I look through your art on your website, I do tend to see some of the same names
Yeah.
because it's like, ah, I can tell that they're just it's like, what do they call that? Synergy, I wanna say.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly like, and I have not had any completely bad experiences working with artists. Some have been a little smoother than others. Some have been a little bit
Sure.
more communicative than others, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Sure, yeah.
But no negative experiences. But yeah, there's just certain, and it honestly sometimes has to do with availability. A lot of the artists I work with are just available a lot, versus
Mm.
different artists who maybe aren't taking commissions currently, or
Oh, sure.
only take commissions a certain amount, this or that. So
Yeah.
yes, I certainly have a handful, and it continues to get longer, of artists that I like absolutely have to work with every book,
Right, yeah.
which is just not good for the wallet. But I'm a
The
little
readers
ham with
appreciate it, but
Ironling.
yes, I get that. I absolutely get that. Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
god, but all the art for Sweetling is just, I have so many good ideas, and it's just
Ooh,
so buy
I get
Ironling so I have money to commission Sweetling art.
yes! Oh my gosh, so exciting, so exciting. Oh, look at this. Oh. Is there anything particular you wanna share before we move on to the next one? I don't wanna make you talk about every single picture, but
Oh no, I loved getting to this is Dragon and Direwolf. We worked on Stoneheart's art together, and she just had a slot open, and I was apparently a good client. So she was like, "You want a commission slot?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And this is what we came up with.
I
I,
just
I love it. I
love
love
it.
their style.
Oh, yeah, and the castle in the background that I just
Mhm.
noticed.
Just the
Beautiful.
colors. I just love the colors. Oh,
Mhm.
this is my phone background for a long time. I love this one.
I
I
love
love
it.
getting to work with Lucielle. They're one of those artists. Same with Beth Gilbert, my cover artist. That I just sort of send them an email. It's a pretty long email, and it's whatever I get back, like the first draft. It's already all perfect. Like it's just
Oof.
I love
I
getting to work
love
with
it.
Lucielle.
Mhm.
Perfect. I love his hair.
I know! Oh, oh my
Oh
gosh.
yes, and I've been waiting to work with gosh, I always forget how to Jessica. Um, her name is Jessica. I've been waiting to work with her for a while. I've had like a waitlist commission slot for quite a while, and then it just happened that it was Ironling was
Yeah.
out when it came up, and I
Oh,
just knew that they would be perfect based off of their art to do something like very romantic, and like it also really helps that Ironling is definitely one of my more like swoony romantic. Like it feels to me like I like my books to all have a certain different vibe and feel, and this one to me felt very much like sort of almost like a classic romance novel, like Judy
yeah.
Garland. No, who's the
Wait.
Judy?
Oh, is it an
No,
actress?
Judy. Not Judy Garland, the actress. No, 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 the Judy Wood. The cloud. There is a Judy. No, it's not Julie. No, anyway, you know what I mean. All the classic ones that
Wait,
our
Julie
moms read.
Garwood?
Yes, Garwood. Oh my
Okay.
god. That's very close to Julie Garland.
You were very
Judy
close. Yes.
Garland. Yeah, Judy Garwood. Um, so kind of classic, sweeping, medieval-esque. That was sort of the vibe that I was going for, and certainly a lot of the art reflects that.
Yes. Oh, I love it so much. Oh,
This was fun. Yeah, so this was Beholden. This was the first time I got to work with them, and it was really awesome. Um,
beautiful.
Hair goals,
I know, right? I was even getting like Dolly Parton vibes.
100%. Yeah, she's high and tight. Yep.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness.
Yes, and all the floppy 90 boys hair.
Yeah.
That's what I told them. Like Dimitri from Anastasia, 90s floppy boy hair.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, this
I
is really good. I loved working with Meow Lane. She was really
mm,
awesome. Absolutely perfect.
mm.
I did, and a lot of these are very much based on like a clinch cover pose sort of thing. This one certainly was. So they just really fit the vibe. So it was very easy to come up with commission ideas. Maybe too easy because there's a lot of them.
I just oh. Yeah, I would love to see, like, not the outtakes, but, like, the scraps of the the things that didn't make it onto the floor. What do they say? The showroom floor. Oh my
This is
gosh.
the newest piece. I always have to get a Seductible piece, of
Yes.
course. This is probably our least not suitable for work one that I've had done by them, but yes, there's things going on beneath the skirts. but there's not really an angle to do that, so. But yeah, her dress is just, I love
I
it.
was thinking the same thing about the dress previously. Look at that.
Yes, just a
And
sparkles.
jewelry?
Mhm.
Oh
And
my
that's
god.
again, that was fun telling all the artists, like, whatever a fantasy medieval dress looks like
Mhm.
to you is I'm very happy with, because again, like, I think
Mm.
that's a fun way to let artists do what they're gonna
Yeah.
do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is
Mm.
so different. I love this.
Thank you. This was actually a gift from my author bestie, Abagail Kelly. She does all her own art for her own books. Um, yeah, and this was a gift, and I didn't know she was going to do this. She did one last time for my last book, Heart Song, as well, and it's just. She's also one of my beta readers. I beta read her books. I
Aw.
absolutely adore Abagail Kelly. If you haven't read her books, I highly recommend them. Immortals After Dark esque, very much, like
Oh,
Cressley Cole's Immortals After Dark.
yes.
Very
Yes.
much like that. Very, very fun. Her books are called the New Protectorate series.
I'm gonna write this down, or I'm gonna type it up and add it to my description box. You said New Protectorate?
Yes.
And I'll have it in my description box
Yes.
later on.
I will never not talk about Abagail Kelly. I love her so much.
Awesome.
Amazing writing, great PNR. It's an alternative in slightly in the future, like takes place in San Francisco. Like 30 years from now, there's elves, there's orcs, there's fae and mermen, and it's just also delicious.
Fun!
And
Oh,
again, she does all her
how
own
fun!
art, so I was so delighted.
I
And this
love
is
it.
supposed to be like a wedding. Oh, from my street team. Hello, hello.
Sorry.
Um,
I don't mean to take you off. This
they're
was supposed to
here.
be
They've
the Knights of the
arrived.
Wendel table.
Yes, that's my
I love
street
it.
team, the Knights of the Wendel table, which is
Love it.
actually a name Abigail came up with. I cannot claim Abigail. She's amazing. But yeah, this is sort of supposed to be like a wedding portrait of them. And I just love the idea of like the portrait artist is like, oh, he needs a hammer.
Oh,
Just
of
like,
course.
okay,
He's
we need
definitely gonna
props
have
in
a
this
hammer.
painting. So I love it so much. I love Abigail.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This strikes me as vintage too. Like I see this and it
Yes.
kind of gives me a taste of like the 50s, you know?
Yes, and Abigail also, she and I were talking about this just the other day. It's Ashlyn was definitely meant to be giving Odette from the Swan Princess vibes, that animated movie, as well as
Yes.
Abigail really loves a classic clinch cover. Like if you look at some of her,
Mm.
especially special editions, um, you can really see where she enjoys a good clinch cover. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. I love it. I love it.
Oh
Oh
yes,
my
and
god.
this is another piece. This is just Amy art. Love it. I love the
I just
pink.
I just love how everyone puts their own unique spin on
Yeah.
it.
Like, you
You
can tell
know?
that it's Ashlyn and Hakon, but, like, I just love the different. And then the rose garden was such a great setting, like, it was hard not to put them in there for every single thing, so.
Yes. Well, I mean, in the way the roses are interwoven into the story and the strength
Mhm.
and the beauty and yeah. Ah, love it. I'm gonna go past it.
Oh gosh.
That was the one where I
No
was
one
like,
look, no one
"What?
look.
What?"
Yeah, we didn't
Wanna
see
see
anything, don't
more?
worry about it.
You can go to her website or her Instagram if you wanna
Fine.
see more. Oh my gosh. This is gorgeous too.
I
It
love this, yes. I've been wanting to work with Sasha Arts for quite a while, but this one felt like the right character to do it with.
beautiful, beautiful.
Absolutely adore everything about it. I love the style of it.
Mm.
I who I sort of work with on a project also is sort of their style. Um, some artists like to draw hyper masculine men or hyper feminine women, or um maybe they're really good at monsters, so they'd be better at like the gargoyle versus an orc. So I think like when commissioning art, it's also important to take in like the artist's style and what they're more comfortable with, because obviously they like
Mm.
to challenge themselves and do things, but also I think you should definitely try and have play it up to their strengths as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Can I make a prediction? Although you're about to tell me probably that it's already happened. Is this gonna be a bookmark at any point? I love all your bookmarks.
Oh,
And
thank
it's
you. I didn't have
got
any
that
plans,
feel.
no.
Okay. Well, it's got
I
that
don't have
feel.
commercial
The book
use
you
for this
guys,
piece.
we have to I think we already looked at your shop last time, but if we have time, we might glance back again because you should see all the stickers and the bookmarks. I mean,
Yes, please
oh,
buy merch. Oh my gosh. Just all sitting in my cabinet waiting for a good home.
yay! I love it. Oh my heavens. Now
This
this
is
is
the
a
bookmark,
bookmark.
yes.
Now is this Ashlyn?
Yes, this is Ashlyn.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I
And this is the bookmark.
This is the bookmark. See, I knew.
This is the bookmark,
This is what
yes.
happens when you speak too soon. Oh, yay! Okay, this is perfect because I wanted to I think this is maybe one of the last pieces of art I wanna
Yes.
save, and it's perfect because I wanted to talk about Wolf.
Yes, Wolf. We love him. We love an animal sidekick.
Yes, we do. Tell us a little bit about Wolf and why you chose him and just why he was perfect in this story.
I don't know that there was any one I was just like, it needs to be a wolfhound. Um
Mm.
and I don't know, it just always felt right for him to have like sort of a grumpy big wolfhound. And it certainly seemed, since I mean, if you've ever seen an Irish wolfhound, they are enormous.
Yes.
Very tall, which
Yes.
felt right for orcs. They would have enormous dogs.
Yes.
So I think it was just important for Hakon to have some sort of, a boy and his dog sort of thing. And he was just, I think, something for Hakon to, it was important for him to have that companion. And honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you, it was an excuse for Hakon to give him a bath and get soaking wet. So, which Ashlyn observes in one chapter. And she is all of us, that it stops her in her tracks to watch the buff half orc blacksmith give his giant dog a bath. Yes,
Oh,
the
yeah.
soft art it is
Mm.
like a Tudor portrait. You were correct. Yeah. We took
Mhm.
the headpiece in particular is Tudor era.
Yeah, let me see if I can go back to that. That really it's just beautiful. See, it says stop screen. No,
It's fine. It's called a French hood.
You're like, let's just stop. I love it. I
I
love it.
know what they're referencing. Yes, it's
Yeah,
the
we all know.
yeah.
Thank heaven. I love it.
But yeah, so I loved the headpiece. I love those headpieces in particular. So it's
Mhm.
hard, and this is one thing with writing uh, historical-esque fantasy, right? Is I can't call it a French hood because there is no France in this world,
Oh.
so I have to call it
Oh.
something different. So you definitely have to think about that um, when and you can't call them Irish wolfhounds. You need to just call them wolfhounds, sort of thing, because
Ah,
there is no Ireland in this world. Um,
right. Oh my goodness. I would never have thought of that. I love it. You always think of everything. I
oh,
love when you start waxing about history and things like that. Oh, so neat. I know Amina's even going, whoa. Like she could have done it. I would be like, oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. And speaking of the world building and things like that, is it just me, or are there many more otherlies in this book? Let's talk about manticores, half dragons, etc., like banshees and other. What was not banshee? There was another one.
harpies.
Harpy. Was there a banshee or was it just a
No,
harpy?
it's harpy.
Okay, harpy. Thank you.
Okay, they're in the same sort of like mythical family.
Okay. Yeah. So it seemed to me, having read The Fabulous Halfling and now having read The Amazing Ironling, that I saw a lot more of the
Mhm.
otherlies. And was that a conscious decision that you made? Did you want to really incorporate lots of mythical creatures into the world? I was talking to S.E. Wendel beforehand, and I mentioned that I was looking up manticores and things like that, and saw very interesting pictures. So I did not include those on purpose because I have a strong suspicion based on the art that she chooses that the pictures I found aren't going to do them justice. So whatever you want to talk about with these otherlies, I'd love
Yeah.
to know.
So I think it was, I've always wanted to sort of populate a world with a bunch of different creatures. I love, right, these types of both high and urban fantasy stories where you just got a lot of different types of people and creatures just bonking around in the world. I think it's so fun. Um,
Mhm.
and Halfling like mentions them, but that's just not really what Halfling is about. It's
Right.
about, what it's about.
Right.
And
Read the book.
Dwarf and Sorcha, versus, it felt right to introduce much more of this. They're part of the world building, and Ironling is much more concerned with the world and larger world, just based on who Ashlyn is,
Yes.
um, and her part in the world. So, and like halfling needed to happen too. Like Orc and Sorcha do spark this sort of like halflings and other people maybe ostracized in their communities are coming to this place hoping for a new start, um where they can interact. And in the world of the story, right, there used to be a lot of non-humans in the kingdoms, but they fled during a very vicious, bloody human war of succession, which happened about
Mm.
30 years earlier. So they had been around, but now they're coming back
Yeah.
because they didn't want to fight the humans' war.
Mm.
Um, right, because that can get even bloodier if you include, you're pitting Fae against Dragon against this and that, and they're all fighting for human causes they don't actually care about. So they didn't want any part of that, so they
Yeah.
fled. But now they're it's a new generation. The war's over. Things have settled down and are stable again. So it's time, and it's just been, that's kind of the plan for the series, is just this intermingling of different people.
Yeah.
Obviously the third book, Sweetling, that is going to be a Fae hero, and we're going to
Yes.
get more into what's going on with the Fae. What's happening with them?
Can that be the tagline at the top of the summary on the back of the
What's
book?
going on? I don't know. Like no one knows, because like the Fae are very mysterious and isolated and insular.
Mhm.
But there's a lot going on with the Fae. It's a shit show in there.
I can't wait to learn everything. I'm excited.
And that'll be really fun. I love doing the orcs, but like I think, it's gonna be time.
Yeah.
And then I sort of have an idea of what the fourth one is gonna be based off of Sweetling sort of setting it up.
Okay.
And there's at least 7 more story ideas,
I was gonna ask 7 more, you said?
including Sweetling, yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. That was gonna be one of the questions I wanted to ask you, was how many books we could look forward to in Monstrous World. Oh, I can't wait.
Lots and lots and lots. And that's the fun thing about this world, and why I've sort of decided, like, there is sort of an overarching plot that's going to build with each book, but they're much more concerned with like these smaller, sorry, I'm just reading that.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you very much
sorry.
for
I
the
don't mean
comment.
to
No,
bring
no, no.
it
I
back.
was distracted
I
by
was
the
gonna bring
comment.
it up after
Lovely
you
comment.
talked. I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, you're fine.
Come back to the
Thank you
comment.
for the lovely comment.
Yeah.
But leaving it sort of open for all of these different stories, and to have these like there again, there will be an overarching sort of thing, but like these smaller scale things. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So
Oh boy.
we get introduced to more orcs, we get introduced to a dragon and his half sister who is a halfling, so half dragon, half human. Manticores, harpies, and mer people get mentioned. And
Oh,
of course, the Fae
yes.
ride unicorns into battle, which is just going to be so fun. I've always wanted to ride a stabby unicorn.
I
None
was
of
gonna
this
say, it's like grumpy
ethereal white
unicorns.
unicorns. Like, no. Um, Sweetling's hero is going to be Alarian, who's a Fae,
Yes.
and his steed Bellerand.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna
they are
go
going
to
to be
that
so
picture.
fun.
I popped that on here, as you
Ta-da!
know. I couldn't help myself. Oh, I
Love it.
love it.
I
I
love.
love that you already have the cover and everything.
Yeah, well, I got in touch
Yeah.
with Beth Gilbert, and she had
Yeah.
availability, and I was like,
Yeah.
here,
This is
oh my
it.
gosh.
This is the perfect time. I
Exactly.
love it so much. So what do you wanna tell us about Alarion? Did I say Alarion?
Alarian.
Alarion.
You just got to
Yeah.
say it faster. Alarian.
Alarion. Alarion.
Alarian. I will say he obviously appears in Ironling, so we meet him. He is. We find out why. So most of the Fae live in one place, obviously, with their queen. Uh, why is he by himself? Who
Yeah.
is this human with him?
Yes.
It's going to
Yes.
be very. It's not going to be a strict Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's going to be very like Beauty and the Beast vibes, and follow some of its plot, um, sort of plot progression of Beauty and the Beast.
I love
Um,
it. We love a good
love
Beauty and the
it.
Beast
You
retelling.
know, it's going to have a sentient house, which is just always fun. And again, I
Yes.
think Ilarion and Bellerand, who are just like Ilarion is not half human. He is full Fae. He has no idea how humans think. So I think it's going to be a lot of like misunderstanding to comedic effect. So
I can't wait.
it's going to be a lot of fun.
And
Uh,
we're anticipating this potentially in November, is that correct? Or do
that's
we
the
know?
hope. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Now
just
that I'm
asking.
doing this full time, I wrote Ironling at a good clip, so I'm hoping that not expecting Sweetling to be as long. Because it is
Mm.
going to be, we're getting back to that sweet forced proximity. So
Yes.
it's going to be in a very underpopulated rather than overpopulated place. So
Oh,
back to the good stuff.
I love
Nice little
it.
palate cleanser.
I love it. And what does sweetling mean, or do we get to know?
It's just
Because
Nepenthe.
I knew what halfling was. I know what ironling, because
Mhm.
he's I was
It
gonna
may or
say.
may not be what he calls her.
Oh, okay, great. I love that.
And I also am saving the title Failing. So
Failing. Oh, that's gonna be fantastic. I love
so
this comment here. Your characters are so powerful. I still think a lot about Belle. Just stayed in my heart.
oh, I love
I
Belle.
think
Belle is
about
my
Belle.
baby.
I know. Oh my gosh, I know. Oh wait, he's over there. Yes. Oh, yes. Love him so, so much.
No.
And
And that's sort of the thing about like obviously you have it there behind you. A Time of War and Demons is my first book.
yes.
I feel like the duet though is a bit, obviously that one's a special to me. Ari and Haven are just like,
Yes.
they're sort of my first babies. They're the first one as an author, and like still to this day I
Yeah.
can take criticism about halfling Stonehearts. I can take it a lot better than I can criticism about Ari. Like, I can take criticism just fine. I went through multiple writing programs. I've had professors trash my work. I can take it. But
Goodness.
I mean it's all
Um,
part of the process, and you have to have a thick skin, and criticism is valid. But I don't like hearing things that like I love Belle. He's my baby. So
oh, yeah. I
special
totally
place in
get
my
that.
heart too.
I love it. I've just gifted to a colleague of mine in Poland. She can't wait to
Oh,
read
thank
the
you so
series.
much.
I
That's
love
lovely.
it. I love it. And I keep highlighting this and then not actually commenting. The story sounds so good. Can't wait to
Thank
read the
you.
series. Pictures, by the way, are absolutely beautiful. Can't wait to
Thank
get
you.
lost in this fantastical world. And you do. I feel like just from the get-go, you're just immersed. As opposed to some fantasy I've read where I'm like, okay, getting in there. It's like it's work. It's work. This
Yeah,
is
and that's sometimes when you know the world building has taken over the story in probably not a productive way.
yeah.
That's honestly how I felt about A Time of War and Demons is the first book
Mm. Mm.
in the series called The House of the Rising Sun.
Yeah.
I have like half of the second book written a long time ago. I have the whole series meticulously planned out,
Yeah.
tons of notes, tons of world building. And honestly, I think
Mm.
I just wrote myself with world building into a corner, and I sort of lost all interest in actual plots. And so that can kind of be the downfall, I think, of world building is it needs to not take over.
Sure.
It
Sure.
needs to populate the world. It needs, but you have to still have a plot and characters to inhabit the story and things like that. So
It's a lot of skill, I would think, that to achieve that balance, and I'm glad that
yeah,
you're
and
aware.
there are plenty of authors. Again, I bring up Tolkien again. There's
Yeah,
plenty of other ones too that they just live and breathe that world, and that's all they
yeah.
want to do, and that's a okay. I
Sure.
am just a seagull who gets distracted by shiny things. So I am on to the next.
I love it. I love it. Well, talking about some of the other characters, I really wanna pronounce this correctly. Brade.
Mhm.
I got it. I got it. Okay. So the talking about
It's
the
sort of
Brade.
like Brady. Yeah.
Right. Yes, I saw that also in the I was like, "Oh, Brady," but I was like, "Brade." Okay.
It's
So
they're like the Brady Bunch.
they're like the Brady Bunch because there's
Yeah.
like 7 of them, I think, and I feel fondness for all, especially Connor in this story. I
I
feel
love Connor.
I love Connor too. Is there a chance we might get more of Connor? Or can
Yes.
you tell us? Oh, yes! I'm so excited.
And you've
I
already
found
met his love interest.
I have.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm so
Mhm.
excited. Guys, I'm so excited. Oh, this is so exciting. Because I feel like Connor stole the show on every scene he was in. I just found him
Love
to be
Connor.
endlessly compelling. And
I'm excited to write his story. He's such a good, noble, like oldest son. He wants to do right. And I'm excited to write his maybe being a knight isn't what I wanted to do. And
ooh.
maybe what else is there sort of thing. And,
Ooh.
seeing other people live their truths and is being a knight his truth. He's maybe not sure. Uh, and you always got to have in these stories, it is usually, of course, monster men. So
All right.
it's going to be fun to write a monster woman.
So true. It's so funny. We were talking about that the other day, in a live. Everybody who loves alien romance, for example, which
Mhm.
is, some semi-related. And there was talk about that. How it's always a human woman and an alien man. And somebody mentioned that they knew of one where it was a human man and an alien woman. And everyone just said, we've got to get our hands on that. We've got to see what that would be like because we just don't see it. So it'll be really refreshing and very interesting, I think, to see it from that standpoint. So I'm just excited for
There's always the token in every series.
right.
There's the token man. Even Ruby Dixon has written one into
Yeah.
Ice Planet Barbarians. He's going to
Yeah.
get one. And of course, like obviously, there's LGBTQ. Like
Sure.
I don't have any current plans for a same-sex couple, and it's
Okay.
not because like I'm fully supportive. I
Yeah.
just don't. It's not anything I have an experience with, and I honestly don't read it very much. It's just not what.
Yeah.
Like
Sure,
I
sure.
don't I don't mind it. I'm all for it. It's just
Mhm.
not a space that I think needs as someone who doesn't know anything about it, doesn't really participate with reading it. It's just like,
Sure.
and there are like, there's multiple same-sex couples in Ironling.
Yes.
It's not a world that cares
Right,
one way
right,
or
right.
another who you
Yeah.
love. But yeah, it's just not something that I don't. I maybe one story idea down the road, and because like obviously Alex from Aryan Haven is going to need her own story someday, and we all know that Alex is a gay little bean. Needs to
I love
seduce
Alex.
every noble woman in the castle. So Alex will get her story once her stories. I don't really know what her story is yet. I just know
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it to come to me. Um,
It's gonna
but that's
be
kind of the only
epic.
one I have planned because
Yeah.
again, like I just don't. And again,
Well,
it's not something
you want it to be organic. You don't wanna just do it
I
because
do. Yeah, just do it because
you're
it's
checking a
trendy. And
box.
honestly, like I'd rather someone in the community
Yeah.
who is LGBTQ to write their own,
Right.
like I
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
I don't have any currently. I know people ask me like, when is the romance coming? Like, there's not one. There's not a
If it
plan.
feels like it needs to be written, it'll be
Yeah,
written.
if a character comes up and it's just like, this
Yeah.
needs to be a thruple, or this needs to be an or this needs to be a sapphic, like
Sure.
I will do it, but like that's not
Sure.
currently. It's not what I
Sure.
read or interact with very much. In the same way that like I don't read mafia romance sort of thing. It's just not something. It's not one of my subgenres sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
well, yeah, that makes absolute sense. So we're not gonna be seeing Alarian in the Mafia is what you're saying.
no. No, he is not in the mafia.
There you go, there you go.
No.
I love this comment. It must be so difficult to build the worlds because for us, it's just like opening a door and then we're there. With some authors, you have to look for the right key and you sometimes never find it.
Oh, I like that.
So
That's a very
true.
nice way to put it. It can be hard, especially during graduate school, I taught undergraduate writing, and that was definitely something I
Mm,
had to in part, and even seasoned authors find it difficult. Sometimes, right, you've had the idea for some of the plot, but mostly the world, and it's just like getting into it can be difficult. And again, that's one of the pitfalls of world building is the info dump.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
oh, thank you. I love Connor too. Connor is my favorite.
Sorry.
I love Connor. He's so much better than Niall. Um, but yes, I think it's just it has to feel organic, as you said. I like that.
Yeah.
The amount of world building, and again, like if it's not important, then
Yeah.
it probably doesn't need to be brought up. So
Mhm. The power of editing.
power of editing, and I found what's really helpful is having another document where like you've written out in narrative style, like all of your world building ideas, have it over
Mm.
here so that
Yeah.
it's not in the actual manuscript. Like you know it,
Yeah.
you've thought it out, you can
Yes.
reference it again, but it's
Right.
not taking up space in the narrative until it's time to actually deploy the
I
information.
love that. I love that. Rather than, yeah, the info dump at the beginning.
It's so hard. It's so
Once upon a
tempting.
time.
We've all
Yeah.
done it as writers.
Yeah.
We've all done it because honestly, it's just it's authors thinking through the problem, and what they
Sure.
need to be doing is doing that in a separate document. Because again, you can keep it,
Mm.
you can reference it. It's all good information. It's all worthwhile writing.
Yeah.
Um, but it just needs to not be in the manuscript.
The
And
reader
I've
doesn't
definitely had too,
necessarily
you know, a
need to
big
hear it.
part of my second drafts is going through when I do info dump and trying to rewrite the info dump. Because I really hate rewriting. I really prefer to execute. It's
Sure.
not that I'm expecting the draft to be perfect. I just really don't like rewriting. Like I like it to be how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But info dumping, you know, like, oh, I said this thing in 4 paragraphs, let's try and say it in 2, sort of thing. Because
Yeah.
you're not like stream of consciousness sort of doing it. You already know what you're about. You finish the book, you know how to say it a bit more succinctly.
Yeah.
um, which is, I know, rich coming from me that anything can be done succinctly, but that is the goal. So
Oh, Pishta, I love your writing. I
thank
love your writing.
you.
I wouldn't change a thing. I love it. All right. So I have to ask this question.
Mhm.
And you can, I know you probably don't want to have like favorites, but favorite half orc, Oric or Hakel?
Oh, this is a mean question.
I couldn't help myself. I knew
I would
going
say
in.
just Hakon because Hakon's like more present in my brain right now.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say like I'd necessarily prefer one of over the other. I think they're both very good for their women.
Oh, 100%. Perfectly stated. Yes.
Yes.
Perfect matches both. I did notice that Hakon might be a little bit more handsome. I think it's written so
Yes.
in some like he's just the consummate like
Hakon
male
is like when
model.
Ashlyn first sees Hakon, it's like the handsome Squidward gif. Like that is what um he's very, yes, Hakon is chiseled.
Oh my gosh. Yes,
And I
I
sort of
loved it.
imagine that because I sort of imagined it, you know, how a liger and a ligon are different, or Tygon. And it
Oh,
depends on
sure.
which the like it depends on which the mother is. So
Oh.
for Auric, his mother was human, versus Hakon, his mother was orcish.
Oh my
Traits they
god.
keep, I sort of thought of it depends on which the mother is.
Oh my heavens. That never occurred to me. See, this is why I'm glad you're the writer. That did not even oh my heavens, that is really neat. I love what Alma just said. "We love your words."
Oh, thank you.
Each of your words just vibrates in a special way.
Thank you.
She's a good writer as well, actually. I have to say through the comments. Okay, so this here's another thing I was excited to talk about. You got an agent. I know you were talking about this on Instagram. How exciting! We're all so excited.
Thank
And
you.
so what do we need to know about this as your readers, as your fans?
Yes. It is obviously it's very exciting. I hadn't been attempting to get an agent because things have been going so well as an indie. You
Yeah,
certainly don't need traditional publishing anymore.
right.
Um, she actually approached me after reading Heart
Oh,
Song. I know, I was shocked.
wow.
And I
That's
sort of waffled about it because honestly, if something's doing well, why would you want to start cutting a check to someone else? But she had
Mm.
really great ideas, not necessarily for the Monstrous World series, but for the Gargoyle series, which is more middling. Not as popular, which is fine.
Okay. Okay.
I love my gargoyle. It's
Hey, we
fine.
love it. We love
Thank
it. We love it.
So she had some really great ideas on how to expand readership for the Gargoyle series. So now that
Nice.
I'm all signed up and we've got our plan in place, what's going to happen is I'm going to be taking the books, the War of the Underhill series, off of Amazon
Okay.
because they need to. Yes, there they are.
All
The
right, guys.
babies.
I love them. I love them.
Babies.
So these guys are going to be off Amazon
Off
by
Amazon by the end
mid-month.
of the month, by the end of
By the end of the
September.
month. Okay. Good to
So
know.
if you want to read it in Kindle Unlimited, you've got till Stonehearts comes down on the 20th,
And
and
that's the
Heart
first
Song
one.
comes down the 24th. And the
Okay.
paperbacks and hardcovers will come down off of Amazon by mid-month so that
Okay.
my agent can start submitting to publishers. It's just how the game has to get played, unfortunately.
Okay.
I don't love it. I definitely waffled on it.
Sure.
But we'll play the game for a couple months. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And this isn't to say that they're going to be gone forever. The goal, obviously, is to get them picked up by a publisher who will then obviously publish them, and they'll be back.
Yeah.
And they can still be, paperbacks will still be available on my shop, and paperbacks will also remain on booksellers like Barnes and Noble. I'm not going to take them down from that. So you can still access them. You just, they will only be, paperbacks will be available for the next couple months.
Okay. Okay. And when they, if they're, this is just me, and again, you don't have to answer anything that could, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything, but would there be new covers, or how does that, or would they,
That's sort
or
of
do
up
we
to
know?
the, I know I had a similar
I'm just
question,
curious.
because honestly, I wouldn't want a new cover. That's the thing about doing special editions and these all
Yeah.
new covers is
Yeah.
I have the cover that I want.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean, how
very
can you
grateful
improve
to
on,
be,
I mean, I couldn't imagine a better cover for either
I
of
know,
these.
like, I just don't, and I'm not, like, I love for other books, I love, like, maybe the more like the Lenny Kaufman more cartoon style. I love
Mhm.
other artist styles. I went to Beth when I wanted to redo Airy and plan for Haven.
Yes.
She was who I wanted. I feel like it's
Yeah.
very much part of my brand,
Sure.
her style for my
Yeah.
covers.
Mhm.
I own, obviously, the commercial rights to the covers, so the publisher might just choose to keep it because they don't have to, they save money not having to pay another artist to completely redo a cover when they already have a perfectly good one.
Yeah.
It will not, in the end, it will ultimately not be up to me. It will be up to the publisher, but my agent assures me we can get a contract where I can have forceful input on the cover, and
Oh,
I will have
cool.
to be quite dazzled to want a different cover.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't want a man chest cover, which I love a good man chest cover, don't get me wrong, but it's not the vibe. I don't know that I want a cartoon cover sort of thing. Like, it just doesn't
Sure.
match the vibe. So
Oh,
again, I would need to be quite convinced.
yeah, that hurts me just thinking about what the ones that right now, the fad with the out faces or without faces. I'm sure you've seen those,
Yeah.
like the rom-coms.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things, like, certain types of covers match the vibe of the book, and I
Right.
know people get very mad when the
Right.
vibes don't match, and I
Yes.
understand, because, like, your cover is marketing your book, so they
Yes.
probably need to match.
Right.
So
True.
yeah, so again, it's in the end will not completely be my decision. If it was, we would not have a different cover. In an ideal world, Beth will do all of my covers, and I would have the agent or the publisher maybe reach out to Beth to maybe do some edits if they wanted to. But the plan is to not change them very
Yeah.
much, because again,
Okay.
that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I got the cover I already wanted, so
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So that's is that all we need to know at this point in terms of you getting an
So
agent?
far, I mean, we're still kind
Okay.
of like I've been waiting for Ironling to come out before taking the other books down because I have to pay rent. I need, a wider net, but now that Ironling is out, I feel better about it. So that
Yeah.
process will start. My agent is currently preparing to send the books to foreign language publishers, which is very exciting. So to get them translated
Ooh.
and published.
Oh my
Now is not a
goodness.
great now is not a great time to be sending it to Europe because as Europeans take August off. On
Wow.
top of there was the Olympics. So
Right. Yeah.
it was not a great time. So hopefully now we will start being able to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just I also hope to I'm going to write the second book, full-length book in the War of the Underhill series, June's story. I'm going to write that probably early next year alongside another Monstrous World book. And then I
Oh
have
my god.
plans for a spin-off to the Gargoyles
Get out.
series. Yes, I'm very
Oh
excited.
my god.
And that one will definitely be like given to my agent to seek because it is going to be because it's a spin-off, right? It's going to be paranormal romance. It's going to have witches. It's going to take place on the Monterey Bay Peninsula. It's going to have a sentient Victorian B&B, very like cozy, and then like monsters bopping around. The first
So fun.
love interest is going to be a bear shifter. So
Oh
I know, and he's going to be
my gosh, this is gonna be so
a
fun.
contractor bear shifter. Just he can fix your house and find the best honey. So
That's all you want. That's all you want.
I know
I
that's
didn't
really
know
all
I
you want.
needed that until just now. Thank you for letting me know.
Want.
I love
So
it.
I will write that one, and it will not be self-published at first. We're going to try and get it published because this is all to be sort of like I didn't necessarily think I needed an agent. Like this wasn't something that I actively pursued, but
Yeah.
the opportunity became available. I think it's good, especially as someone who is doing this full time. I think it's good to have multiple eggs in different baskets.
Mhm.
Different types of books do better in different types of markets. High fantasy monster romance is doing really well in the indie scene. Very grateful for that. The Gargoyle series might do better in the traditional publishing market, especially thanks to books like Bride, by Allie Hazelwood, that really just kind of reinvigorated the PNR market in a lot of ways for trad pub.
Sorry, my daughter's being noisy. She shares a wall with me and she's trying to get my attention. My apologies. And then I realized, oh, I wasn't I was still muted. So yeah. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about some things that are coming up for you. Obviously you've got the agent now. That's super exciting. But I saw that this weekend you are going to be doing Villains and Vixens. Tell us about that.
Yes, that will be in 2025 in Dallas, Texas, in September 4th and 5th, I believe.
Oh my gosh, that's 2025. I'm so sorry. I thought that was just this coming weekend.
No, it's. I hope not. Oh my god, I have not bought a ticket. No, it is next year.
Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, so but that's gonna be exciting. I haven't applied to or I haven't planned to go to anything else yet. So
Okay.
as far as I know,
Okay, so
that will
this
be
is
my first like big girl author event
Oh,
con.
so
So I'm very
exciting.
excited. Yes, I hope I can meet people in person. My lovely PA actually lives in Dallas, so she's going to help me out because I will be
Love it.
very because I've never been to Texas, so I'm
And
expecting the
I saw
heat
that
to be terrible.
it's gonna be at the Gaylord too down there,
Yes,
which
I hear
those are
that's very
so
nice, very swanky.
beautiful. Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's so
Yes,
exciting.
I'm very excited, and my PA and I are already planning on doing I wouldn't call them special editions, but definitely like something fun, something exclusive to the event. So
Yeah.
yes,
Oh,
I
I
hope
love
I
it.
hope I can see as many of you as possible.
Yes,
I'll be
yes.
out there
Yeah, and since it's
melting in the Texas heat.
since
I
it's
mean, I'm in
2025,
California. I'm in California, and I can take the heat. It's the wet heat that is just like
Ooh,
I don't.
ooh.
I can take 105 because it's dry heat.
I can't imagine
I
what
don't know
that's
about
like.
the humidity.
Ooh, ooh, that sounds intense. I've never experienced that level of heat. So, ooh,
And
must be something.
when it's a dry heat, it's not as bad. It's when it's wet.
Okay.
Apparently, it's bad.
Well, I definitely wanted to, again, I'm not going to keep you forever, but I wanted to cover spoilers for anyone who
Mhm.
wants to hang around at the end and talk about what they've read, because I know it's only been out for a few days, but I know some of us were on the ARC team that are
Mhm.
here, so we got a chance to read it. We had a few extra days to read it in advance. So I wanted to give everybody an opportunity. But before I do, I wanted to see if there was anybody who was going to jump out before spoiler time because they didn't want to, have a spoiler. Are
Sure.
there any? Oh, Amanda's like, yes, spoilers. Are there
I
any
love spoilers.
questions? I know, right? Are there any questions before we get to spoilers that people wanted to ask the fabulous S.E. Wendell? I'm putting everybody on the spot here. We're almost 2 hours in, so I can imagine it. Well, I don't know if there's anything else we're allowed to answer at this point. If there's not, then what I'm gonna do is say, let's do
You have been warned, y'all.
yes, you have. And I'm gonna
You've
keep
been
this
warned.
banner here so that
Okay.
everyone can see.
I
Oh,
think
wait, I think I
that's
see.
fair.
Oh, will you come back to Europe?
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? She's in France, Amina
Oh,
is,
yes.
so
I mean, obviously, hey, if I obviously want to go see this Mont Saint Michel, I
yeah.
have lots of things I would love to go see in France.
Mhm.
I had been planning to do. My mom and I were going to go on a big UK trip in May, but that got
Ooh.
canceled.
Okay.
Hopefully, like maybe in 2026. My mom
Okay.
has been dealing with some major health issues that we
Mm.
are hoping will be in the next like 8 months. We're hoping she'll be more stable because
Yeah.
she's never been abroad. So this was really going to be her big UK hurrah. Like she
Yeah.
was, so hopefully we'll get that trip back. But yes,
Yeah.
I absolutely like bucket list. Obviously want to do Italy. I'm a huge ancient Rome nerd. I desperately want to
Ooh.
go to Florence. Um,
Ooh.
and yeah, and of course Greece. Oh my god, Greece looks so good. I love Greek food.
Fun! Oh,
I
I love
know.
it.
And obviously I would love to go back to Germany. France is better. Okay. If you say so. I absolutely
She knows, she's there.
I guess honestly I would love to see Marseille on the coast. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I
Ooh.
have lots of places I would love to see. I would love to come back to Europe. It's just very far from California. Like it's like 11-hour flight.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yikes.
because you on the East Coast, it's only like
Yeah.
5 or 6, but we got to get all the way across the continental North America before we even hit the Atlantic Ocean.
Right, right. Oh my
It's
goodness.
a long flight.
And Amina says Marseille's hot. So just keep in
I
mind.
mean, like actually hot or like California hot because um,
Oh, but Paris
it's
is
gonna be
raining too.
102 in 3 days. So
Oh, no, no,
Fahrenheit.
no. No, no, no. We're already having
But
trouble.
Marseille is on the Mediterranean, so like how bad could it really be?
Oh, that would be so
Like
beautiful. Mm, mm. Love it.
it's one thing to be super hot, like in the middle of, you know, nowhere, Kansas sort of thing, but like to be hot on a beach in Marseille.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. California is a different type of hot. It is. It is. Like I've rather than going to Europe, I've been to Hawaii quite a bit.
Ooh.
And Hawaii can get quite warm, but it's humid.
Mm.
So,
I gotta do that.
but again, you don't really care because you're on a beach in Hawaii.
Right. You're like, I
Like,
kind
oh
of
no, it's
expected this.
raining, but it's also like 72 and like so
Yeah.
nice. So
Oh, that sounds lovely.
it's so
How fun.
nice. It's
Now we all wanna go on vacation.
everyone just finished going on vacation. We're supposed to
I
all be
know,
back in
exactly.
school.
I literally just got back this afternoon, like 2 hours before we were set
Just
to
drop
meet.
kick the kids into school and
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
like
Absolutely,
get out,
absolutely.
go away.
I know. Exactly, yeah.
Thank God you're your teacher's problem now.
My kids were fighting extra hard right before school started, just so I'd miss them a little bit less when they went to school. They were just doing me a favor. Like, oh,
Less cute.
we literally at one point in the van, they were arguing over whether hot food or cold food was better, and it got heated. And I was like, this is not my favorite. I don't mind too much if you go to school for one day. I don't know.
Any food I put in front of you is better.
I know.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That too.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
I'm just,
Deborah, you're
I'm
so
proud of myself for keeping myself and my cat alive. So
there you go.
I don't know what would happen if there was another person in there in the mix.
Oh gosh, I tell you, it's a lot. Vacation with
Vacation
kids
with kids isn't a vacation, 100%. Everyone else on the plane agrees with you.
So true.
Yeah.
Jean says, was just in Upland, California for Labor Day weekend. It was so hot, though it was a dry heat.
Yeah.
Oh, and she said she
What's
can't
the
wait to read.
forecast? What's the forecast?
Oh, okay. Now we get to find out.
Let's see. Oh, it's only supposed to be 90 today where I am, but yeah.
Wow.
Wednesday 103, Thursday 104, and Friday 100.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
and honestly, lately, summer's not really over here in California till like early October. So like I know, like, according to Starbucks and Disney and the internet, like fall has started, but I will die if I go out in a sweater for another 2 months. Heat.
Get the iced pumpkin spice latte.
There we go. Can't wait to read a book and based in Monterey. Yes, I love Monterey. I was just there in Pacific Grove, which is the town right next to it, on vacation. I absolutely love it on the peninsula. The goal is to become a famous best-selling author and then buy an extremely overpriced house in Pacific Grove and just live there.
That sounds fantastic.
It's like 70 degrees there tops. It's so lovely. And there's sea otters.
Oh,
I know. I saw 4 of them in the wild on our trip. I've never seen them in the wild before. They're so cute.
So cute. So cute.
I've seen them in the aquariums, of course, because Monterey has a very famous Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is 10 out of 10 would recommend. They have very lovely otters. They have like 4 adult females, and they're in a program where they raise an orphan baby. Oh,
that's so cute.
I know. And they're releasing back in the wild. It's so cute. It's so I love the Monterey Bay Aquarium. But it's just such a lovely place. Highly recommend.
Awesome. I love this.
You count in Celsius. No. I know there's conversion tables. Like I don't.
But she says it was only 28 there today. Sounds cold.
Isn't that? I think that's the high 80s for us.
That is an excellent goal to be a Monterey.
It's just, Pacific Grove real estate is sort of crazy. Like you think California is bad.
When I went to San Diego, we were paying for parking. I was like, what? Am I buying this parking spot? What is happening? Some areas.
San Diego. San Diego is what the rest of the nation thinks that LA is what actually is San Diego. LA actually kind of sucks. No offense, LA.
I know so little about the West Coast. It's sad, actually. But
West Coast. I know very little about the East Coast, other than like.
I can't even imagine.
Honestly, the idea of a nor'easter terrifies me. What do you mean you're under snow?
Yeah, well, we don't get that much where I am. We don't get as much snow.
Yeah, but you get humidity, and I'm just. And cicadas, good God. Like this year, we are nowhere where the cicadas in any year come back. What is going on with the East Coast and cicadas? Dear Lord, no.
How do we survive over here on the East Coast? I don't know. Oh my gosh. I saw my first otter in the wild Pacific off the Avila Beach Pier. It was magical.
Oh, they're so cute. They are everything to be, and they're just like existing. Just like, oh my God, they're so cute. The cute aggression is just max turned up. They're so
okay.
Cute.
Is there a way? Oh, you know what you need to do? Can you include an otter in your Monterey?
I do have plans.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine the art? Okay. I need stickers now. I'm so excited.
I know. I'm very excited to like see, because that'll be one thing with Sweetling getting art is I will have to choose. Because that was one thing that was amazing with Beth's cover is the first thing I asked her was, "Are you okay to draw a horse?" Because not every artist likes to draw horses. They will tell you either they love it or they hate it. Horses are incredibly hard to draw,
Oh
which is
no.
why when you look at like 17th, 18th, 19th century art, there are artists who only draw horses because they're very good at it. And like not everyone is. So they make a living off of drawing horses. Um and you know, they're hard to draw, they're hard to animate. Ask any
Mm,
artist, they hate it.
mm.
And Beth was like, "No, I love drawing horses." Like, yay. So that'll definitely be a bit of a challenge with Sweetling
Yeah.
art, I think. But
Okay. Yeah.
but I do plan to get plenty of Bellarand art because let's face it, he's really going to be the main character.
I cannot wait.
I'm excited.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Um, so because I said, you know what? We could even try to stick to 2 hours at this point because it's like we have 10 minutes until 2 hours. Not that we have to cut off then, but when I just don't want to keep you too long. But we can
No,
do.
we're having fun, but yeah, hit me with the spoilers.
We are. We
Let's
are.
ruin
So
some stuff.
I know. So let's do spoiler time if that's okay with everybody. Is there anything that jumps out at you that you would like to discuss? If you read the book, obviously. Um, is there anything? Oh, I'm trying to. So okay, what I'm now realizing? I've got the spoiler time set, but I feel like I asked everything in code earlier when we were talking. Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head that you would like to discuss that Oh, I know. Okay, let's talk about this. I want to talk about Jared.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I am fascinated to know more about what happened to him when he was trying to create his like mercenary
Mm-hmm.
army, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
He was it seems like by the time he arrived, he had lost control
Mm-hmm.
because he's always like a in my opinion, he's kind of like this little boy who's got a bad attitude. He's not actually a leader.
Right.
Nor is he interested, he just wants what's his, but he's not really interested in leading. And obviously at this point, what's going on there is basically is
Mm-hmm.
my question. I feel like there's another gentleman, not gentleman, but a guy who it seems like it's taken over. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so Jared to me always was sort of like this. He's not necessarily evil. He's just a little shit. Right. He's what happens when we sort of buy into this idea that you're owed something just by
Mm,
virtue of being, you know, who you are or existing. And you know, like he's owed loyalty and he's owed his inheritance because he's the boy child.
mm,
When this, you know, their culture isn't patriarchal and it's not primogenitor, which is the um, passing of inheritance to oldest sons only.
right.
Um, their kingdom historically hasn't been. In fact, their kingdom has been somewhat more matriarchal, especially with inheritance from mothers to daughters, which is something we do actually see in many like African cultures. Honestly, it makes sense because a mother knows who her children are. She was sort of
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
which is not always the case with fathers.
Right.
Don't get me started on patriarchy. That's
Well,
a
I was
whole
just
other
going to
interview.
ask if we because I do believe I'd experience not experience, but there are examples of this in
Mhm.
cultures in our own world. And I was wondering if, you just mentioned that though, so I was curious to hear more.
Yeah, yeah. So it definitely is like this sort of Jared sort of represents this sort of like infantile patriarchy who, and you know, I watch a lot of true crime, so it is sort of like what can go wrong, what has gone wrong with him. I think again, a lot of with Brenna as well, Ashlyn, like
Mm,
everyone after, like Jared would have been a much different person had their mother lived, sort of thing. But
yeah.
she didn't, and no one really knew how to cope with it. Um, Obviously, like as Ashlyn says, her father manifested that into something productive, but not necessarily something healthy.
Mm.
Jared internalized it. He became one of those, very typical rich boy,
Yeah.
insufferable, arrogant, prideful for
Entitled.
no reason,
Mm.
And
Mm.
we do sort of see that with people who have no self-love as a child growing up, right? To compensate for no self-love, they become arrogant.
Oh.
They have to tell themselves that they are the best and worthwhile because like they haven't been told that externally by parents or someone else. So that's really where I was coming from Jared. He's not evil. He's just kind of the worst.
Right.
He's spoiled, and you are right when you said he's not a natural leader.
Mhm.
He sort of he went into the lion's den, right, with big promises, with all he really had, which were promises.
Yeah.
Um, and he has lost control of the situation by the time that they get where they're going in this book. So it was sort of like of course he was going to arrive, and of course he wasn't going to stay where he was told and like become a better person, right? Like of course he wasn't
Right.
going to. He's a spoiled brat.
Yeah.
This is like the first time he's experienced consequences. Um,
Mm. Mm.
and that rarely goes well when someone's already in their mid 20s and it's the first time they're experiencing consequences.
Right.
Um, so he's basically throwing a tantrum
Yeah.
and he is sort of a man child and these are the consequences of his actions, right? He's with a bunch of dangerous men
Yeah.
who are taking him for a ride. They
Yes.
see an opportunity. So what would have happened if he won? Probably nothing good.
No.
So yeah, so I think like Jared was a very interesting sort of villain. Again, I'm not very interested in big bads are easy, these sort of like sort of Sauron figures from Lord of the Rings. Sorry, we were literally watching The Rings of Power. So like Lord of the Rings is like front and center in my brain.
Right,
So
of course.
all the Tolkien references,
Yeah.
those characters really are like they are allegories for like devil, gods of evil, the devil sort of thing.
Sure.
And they're easy to write, and I've certainly written plenty of my own big bads. But I've gotten less interested in them. I don't think that there are plenty of evil people in my books, but Jared's not evil.
Right.
But yeah, so
No,
I'm
and
glad all
that's
that came across because he really doesn't have a lot of screen time for as much of. He takes up a lot of headspace in the book, but he's not
oh, you
actually on
sure.
the page very much.
Right, right. No, and I really appreciate how and I was thinking that with Brenna as well, like, she's not just this villain. You've got
No.
these rich characters who are flawed and maybe they're coming from there's the reasons why they behave the way that they do,
Mhm.
as you mentioned. So yes, but I was really curious to get your input on Jared, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, we see that little Rosie, as she's
Mhm.
called, comes on the scene. Do you anticipate seeing more from her as we go through the series?
I think maybe like down the line, obviously some time has to pass and there's plenty of things that need to happen and are going to happen between when she's like old enough for her own story.
Yeah,
Um I hadn't necessarily thought too much about I don't have any major plans for her other than existing. I knew from the get-go that given that Ashlyn has this trepidation over pregnancy as
yeah,
well as she is a noble and therefore needs to produce an heir,
right.
that they would have a child. Um, and also, like, I just know everyone has been desperate for a baby epilogue, so it's just like, here you go. Here's
Yes,
your baby epilogue.
so cute, so
Because
cute.
I've
Okay,
gotten,
maybe I
when
truly.
are Lena and Belle gonna have a baby? When are Sorsha and Oric gonna have a baby? Like,
Yes.
it's just okay.
You're like, "I'm
baby,
tired of
baby.
getting those questions."
Yeah, pretty much.
Let me delete that banner right now. I'm just kidding, no.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Let's see. There's so many things that so I one thing that I personally as a reader, I mean, you resolve this and I so I'm not this is not me critiquing at all. But I had an issue with Hakon talking about how he was going to convince Ashlyn that
Mhm.
she could just leave. He's just
Mhm.
going to carry her over his shoulder and run off. But after talking with Oric, I felt like that conversation was so pivotal. And
Mhm.
again, talking about this brings it back to the idea of strength being different things, not just taking power and doing what you want to do, but being strong and being kind of in the background and learning, to put the other person and their needs first and realizing you're not number one necessarily in their world, even if they are for you. Um, do you have any additional thoughts or anything you'd like to share about Hakon at the time? The fact that he was just going to take her away
Yeah.
and that he knew best.
I think part of it was it adds tension.
Sure.
Um, and he needed to, in the same way that Jared is not evil, Hakon is not perfect. Ashlyn
Right.
is not perfect. I think he needed to be selfish.
Mhm.
He's sort of him wanting to do that is a very selfish thing. It's not necessarily like he's not necessarily wrong. It's not that she wouldn't have a good life with what he could build outside of
Right.
it.
Right.
Um, and I did want to emphasize that Ashlyn is not the ideal noblewoman. She does not necessarily derive a lot of pleasure from doing it.
Right, well, and that
She
I
just
remember him saying that was part of his reasoning, that this was sort
yeah.
of thrust upon her, and with some of her not issues, I hate to use that term, but for lack of a better word, she has this
Mhm.
was is very stressful for her, and her body experiences stress in a major way,
Mhm.
so that's hard, that's a difficult position to lead with those
Yeah.
types of
It's hard to watch the ones you love suffer, and
Yes.
especially, like, I think it is a very much and he comes from a very, male, instinct, which is to just fix the problem.
Right.
I'm sure we've all talked to our male counterparts, and we're talking to them, and they offer a solution to our problem, and it's very annoying because that's not what we wanted. I just wanted to complain. I didn't need a solution. Right, and it is sort of that, like, "Oh, I'll fix it." And I think it sort of speaks to, as I mentioned earlier, Ironling to me definitely has, like, older classic romance novel vibes from maybe, like, the 80s or 90s, which kind of would have these heroes who would just sort of sweep up the heroine, make all the decisions, and sort of save the day, and the female character is very passive.
Mhm.
Things
Right.
happen to her.
Yeah.
And while they're good things in the most part, they're not her decision.
Right.
And so it's sort of in conversation with that, as well as Oric talks about, right? Like, if you want to be with her, you have to be with her people,
Yeah.
is sort of a comment too on, right? Historically, at least in Western culture, um, you would have women be married off, and women would then go into the husband's culture.
Yes. Right.
Um, take his name, become his family and his
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it is sort of also this, well, you need to, she's got her life here. This is her life. And especially since these characters are coming into a new land, this is not their homeland. This is Sorsha's homeland. This is Ashlyn's homeland. It's
Right.
to
Right.
me sort of makes more sense that they need to acclimate and assimilate to their culture. Because yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely
Absolutely.
had that in mind that it's kind of a comment on what women would do. And so I like subtly playing with gender roles like that.
Love it.
Um
Love that.
and especially with, there is this tension in the kingdom of, because the king consort of the kingdom is half this other culture, and he
Mhm.
comes from a very patriarchal
Right.
primogenitor place, and the nobles are starting to, the nobles have sort of been taken over by this other culture, but it would have a lot of tension with people like Sorsha's family, people who are further out from the capital. It would have a lot of tension and not necessarily support, like we've
Yeah.
but done perfectly fine with female rulers.
Mhm.
Which
Mhm.
again to me is just much more interesting. I think, like, there's been plenty of amazing books written about women breaking the glass ceiling, and like, for example, I didn't write as a female knight being a big thing because there's already the Tamora Pierce series about female knights like breaking that boundary. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have anything better to say than Tamora Pierce on that subject.
Okay.
So like, I just made it a non-issue. Like, that's just not what the gender roles of this world are, because it's not what I'm interested in writing.
Sure.
I think doing that also is kind of fun because it means you can't rely on stereotypes or and it does sort of aid the world building. You can't rely too much on how things were in
Mm.
this real world
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
your made up world. Because again, you made the world up.
Right.
Anything can happen,
Yes.
which is why
I
I get
love that.
annoyed sometimes with certain fantasies that maybe don't treat women very well. And
Sure.
they're like, well, this is how it was. I'm like, there's literally dragons. Don't tell me about how they got here. You made this whole thing up. This is all just
Right.
a fever dream we're all having, and it's a big
Right.
hallucination we're all sharing. You can do whatever you want. You can treat women better.
I love that.
So
I love that. Well
yeah.
said.
But yes, I think it was important that Hakon have this sort of selfish, and you see where he's coming from. He wants someone to be his.
Yeah.
His mother chose his father over him. His grandfather didn't want to stay alive any longer without his grandmother.
Right.
He wants to be someone's only, one and only,
Yes.
which is not, it's a selfish notion, but it's also like, I think what a lot of people, a lot of us want. We
Yeah.
want to be number one. And he sort of chose the absolute worst person to expect that from. Um, he chose
Yeah.
someone who's got a lot of other things going on.
Yes.
So
Right.
I think it was important for him to, rather than trying to mesh her into this imaginary life,
Yeah.
he needed to learn that's not how it can be.
Right.
That's
Well,
not
and
how
just
it's
the way
gonna
that he
be.
made that ultimate sacrifice toward the end of giving away his land, just giving it out, parsing it
Yeah.
out. I was just so impressed by that. The other thing, this is the only other thing I can think of, so this might be our last one, unless anybody has something else they've thought of, because I know we still got quite an audience here. They're listening. I'm supposed to ask you. The other thing that I found shocking, but I think this maybe goes into kind of not selfishness. I'll let you tell me what you think. But the fact that he did not share anything about the mate bond
Mm,
with her,
mhm.
and Sorcha's like, "You didn't hear about the mate bond? You didn't say anything about the mate bond?" And Ashlyn's like, "No." I mean, I thought this was quite an interesting omission that he made, and so I was just sort of curious. And again, let me explain. I love Hakon. I'm not like hating on him, but yeah, I'm just so curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Again, I think it was something like he'd seen, they're pretty into their relationship when Ashlyn finds out about it. And I think to
Yeah,
Hakon, he didn't want to scare her off.
right.
He's seen her freak out about, and I think, again, like he's coming from a sort of selfish place with it, but he's also trying to stack the deck in his favor. Like he's
Sure.
not stupid. He knows that
Right.
he knows the challenges, right? And
Yeah.
so if he sort of hits her with all of this, because not only is he knows it's going to be a sacrifice to choose him over everything else,
Yeah.
um, I think he considers this, it's going to be another sacrifice on her part. And if it all sort of looks like this big, he needs to make sure he's going to be worth it in her eyes when it's time for them to choose. And I think, he would have eventually told her and like given her these, this is what I'm thinking sort of thing. It's just events conspire to drive up the timeline.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. True.
but
Well said.
yeah. um,
Mm.
so again, it just comes from he's not perfect.
Sure.
And I think also that sort of male impetus of, oh, I just didn't tell her.
You didn't ask.
I forgot.
We were very
um,
busy doing other things.
yes. So, but yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah.
Like Oryx sort of did that too. He didn't tell her.
Mm.
And as Hakon mentions, orcs don't tell everyone about the mate bond because it can be a sort of vulnerability.
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely. 'Cause they're yeah.
and
That's
he
right.
definitely considers it a vulnerability in that, right? He wants it so badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that even in some way he might not be willing to share it with her, even though she is his intended mate.
Yes.
in some way he's not willing to share that with her quite yet. Like, he doesn't
Mhm.
trust her quite. Like, it is sort of a question of how much do they actually trust each other, you know?
Ooh, ooh, I love it.
Because, he doesn't trust that she's going to choose him for quite a while.
Right, right.
So
Oh,
he's trying to stack the deck before he asks her because he knows what a big sacrifice it is. And
right.
he wants the answer he wants, sort of thing.
Mhm, mhm.
And like as Ashlyn says later in the book, like she had trusted him with her heart, her body, but she didn't, trusting him with affairs of state. If he messes up, this is on her. That's a
Right.
big thing to trust with someone.
Yes,
So I think a
right.
lot of it is not only that was kind of fun. Like, I wouldn't call Ironling a slow burn. To me, especially for how I usually pace books, it's a medium burn. um, they are together by 45%.
Right.
That is medium burn. Especially for me. So it was sort of fun, like, okay, they've already sort of fallen in love, but they don't trust each other yet.
Wow.
And so that really had to get built.
Mhm,
That was fun.
mhm. Love that. I love this too. Marissa says,
Mhm.
"Loved the romantic scenes."
I did
Yes.
too.
Oh,
This is a
so
very romantic book. I
again, you
really
just see how perfect they are for one another. How
and
they just
I absolutely adored writing chapter 32.
I don't
The
remember what that is
choosing.
off the top of my
It's
head,
the
but I can
choosing.
imagine.
It's the choosing.
Oh, the choosing! Yes! Can I s okay, so Burgoyne, is that how you pronounce his name? Did I get any is that right? Burgoyne?
Burgoyne, yeah.
He was a hoot. I
Yeah.
loved him. How he's like, "And I'm also here." And then when he
He was
winks at
fun.
her, oh my gosh. I loved the choosing. Yes, that was fantastic. The way he came in and it was
And
like
it's
one of
just
those
like,
movie moments
yeah.
where the hero just not rides in on the steed, but like I could just envision
Perfect
the
timing.
the
Yeah, of course,
doors just
it's
opening and
Aragorn coming into,
yes!
Aragorn's still alive and coming into
Yes!
Rohan, yeah.
That's exactly it. That is
One of my delightful street
exactly
team made a video with that. It was pretty great. It was like spot on.
oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Oh my gosh,
Yep.
how perfect.
But yeah,
Yep.
it was very just again, like I loved the sort of classic romance novel vibes and like the big romantic gestures. Um, because again, it's one of those things like everyone has a different love language, and I think because Ashlyn is who she is, these big gestures really come off well with her because like there's no misinterpreting it. They
Right.
are a big romantic gesture.
Yes. Yes, and for me, just as like linking just as importantly is just the not caretaking exactly, but it does feel like caretaking, the way that he understands her and like I know I already mentioned it, but like it was so powerful for me that he has it's like a built-in sensory perfect system. Like he's purring. You don't even need to go
Yeah.
to Amazon to find the proper thing because that's certainly something I've done as a mother of neurodivergent children. Like, okay, let's get the latest product. Let's get the da da da. Let's see
Yeah.
if this helps. Her mate has built in all of the
Yeah.
things. I just feel
The vibrating warm blanket. It's yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just perfection. Just
Thank you.
perfection. I love it.
Yes, I
Love it.
definitely I've read books before with characters of a similar nature to Ashlyn and like having these big panic, dark room, cover
Yeah.
them with a blanket. And so
Yeah.
like to me, that's what Hakon provides for her.
Yeah.
Is that comfort and safety that like it's okay. It's
Yes.
okay to be who you are. It's okay that you're
Yes.
overwhelmed. And I
Yes.
wanted to definitely emphasize that Ashlyn might not be the best at this situation, but like when she has the support she needs, right? Like when the administration things are all she doesn't have a chatelaine who's questioning her decisions. She's got all of the positions filled that her father just has forgotten to fill.
Yeah.
And she's not doing everything herself. Like she can fully thrive.
Yes.
Um, which everyone, no matter how you think or everyone can thrive. They just need the right
Yeah.
environment. So
Exactly. Oh my gosh, so well said. I love that. I love that's so true. That's so true. I love what she's highlighting here. I choose you,
mm,
Ashlyn, today, tomorrow, for always.
thank
Yes.
you. No, he's got away with words.
I'm not going to do this because I don't want people to leave, but I have so many highlighted lines on my Kindle. Oh, guys, seriously, line after line after line of just gorgeous writing. Gorgeous. Yeah,
Thank you.
beautifully said, truly. Truly. Well, if there isn't anyone else who has a question that's spoiler related, I think we're going to start getting ready to say our goodbyes. Is there anything else that you wanted to say that you didn't get a chance to share?
No, I don't think so. Just thank
Okay.
you all so much
I
for
just want to make sure. Want to make sure
I've talked a lot. I can, you know me, I can talk.
and we love it. We love every word. We love to hear it.
No,
Yeah, I
just thank
think
you so much for
everybody.
having me, and I'm so
Oh,
grateful that everyone's enjoying Ironling. And again, I'm just so grateful that I get to do this. It's just so wild that, and my housemate and I with my parents just remark every once in a while, like, "Wow, this is really cool. You get to do this." And I was like, "I know. I mean, it's
so
always been the
cool.
goal, but like this isn't the reality for a lot of writers.
Right.
Even some of the author names, like they don't make enough to support themselves off of it.
Right.
So this is just
Yeah.
such a great opportunity, and I am so grateful that I get to do this. It's so wild. So
Well,
living the
we're so
dream.
grateful. You've given us so much.
Oh,
You'll never know. I don't think you'll ever be able to fathom how much you've given to I would say to the world. That sounds cliche, but I do mean that. People all over the world touched by your writing, uplifted. So thank you, truly. I love this. Thank you, Miss Wendell, and thank you, B.
thank
We
you.
are very excited
That's
to
the power
share.
of books. That's why literature is
Yeah.
so important and so powerful.
Truly, truly. All right. Well, we are going to say goodbye until next time. Of course, we always want to have her back. Anytime she can. Oh, we got a couple more things. This was amazing. I'm so glad I was able to be here. Thank you for
Oh,
doing this.
thank you for
Thank you,
being
Deborah.
here.
I just wanted
Oh,
to,
thank you, Mott.
oh,
Yes, I miss you too.
I
Thank
love
you,
it.
Mott.
Oh, you change people's
Oh,
lives.
thank you.
I love it. We'll definitely look for your books and we'll read
Thank
them.
you.
Yay! You're going to
Yay.
love them. You're going to love them. I love them. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of your day and I hope you have a great week and we'll see you soon.
Yay,
Bye.
thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.